Howdy, folks! It's deadline day. T-minus 2 hours and counting. I'm Michael Agello, and joined by Russ Cohen, who is schlepping his book, 100 Ranger Greats.
No, this is 100 things Ranger fans should know or do before they die. And I will start reading from number 100 on down when there's a low.
Okay. I mean, you did do 100 Ranger Greats, and I saw the Ranger jersey, so I just assumed it was that.
And I have things in my staged area that I will be talking about later in the show.
Yes, and I have a 2-liter bottle of Coke, and that'll be gone probably by hour 1.
That's going to shorten your life, Mike.
So that's wonderful. Okay, we're gonna talk about the trades that have been made since we last did the show, which was at 1:00 yesterday. And yes, Thomas Boyle breaking news. There you go. And I like to congratulate Tony Soprano for mentioning every day for the last 2 years about Anton Khudobin being traded. And alas, Anton Khudobin yesterday, Russ, was traded.
Thank God. So we don't have to hear about it anymore. My God, I was getting so sick of it.
Yes. So we'll get Tony. Tony can put it in the chat how he feels now about Max Domi, because Max Domi was acquired in exchange for Anton Khudobin. Who was it? Dylan Wells was the other player.
Yeah, Dylan Wells.
Yeah. So but okay, let's start with that one. We look at Dallas, and they supposedly were in on Kane, and they fell short on that one, or Kane didn't want to go there. He wanted to go to the Rangers, and JVR was probably too much of a Timothy, I am a diabetic. This is a special occasion. I don't drink Coke all the time. This is just, I need the caffeine, and I hate Diet Coke. So I took an extra metformin. I'm good. Does Max Domi fit with the Dallas Stars?
I mean, they play at pace, so he can play at pace. He's a good passer. I think he gets a little sort of reckless out there with his offensive play at times, or unstable, maybe is the better word. But yeah, I think he fits in. I mean, that helps them. They have a legit top 9. Like, their big thing was, hey, we got to get guys that can play with everybody. It can't just be Sagan and Ben. They lost Gurianov, and they could say what they want about that, but that's speed on the wing that they lost, if nothing else, even if he wasn't scoring. And so they need secondary scoring. That's what they need. And look, he'll chip in. And Dallas is a good dark horse for one of those teams that could sort of tiptoe into the Stanley Cup, because there's all these crushing teams in the East. It definitely could happen. They have the goaltending. Their defense is good. The Rangers gifted them Nils Lundqvist, and he's helped them out on the power play. So, yeah, I think Dallas is in pretty good shape here.
And we're joined by Jan Levine, and just to recognize Lawrence in the chat, thank you very much. I do look a little bit like a funeral director. This is my Brian Burke homage with the undone tie.
When was the last time you wore that suit, Mike?
Last year at a wake.
Lawrence for the win.
There you go. Little ZZ top, as they call them in Canada. So Jan, let's get your opinion, because I don't think we've had you on since the official Kane deal. Get your thoughts on that one. And he did play, obviously, against Ottawa last night. It was a 5-3 Sens loss. Ottawa's now enthused because of the acquisition of Jacob Chikrin, and they think they have a chance to make the playoffs. What did you think of the acquisition and the game last night?
I mean, discussed this a couple of times. I'm not sure my view has changed, right? So the goal clearly was, for lack of a better term, they viewed as they were getting him on the cheap, because he, in essence, kind of was only going to go there and wasn't going to go anywhere else. So the cost was less than they expected, especially since Chicago had to eat cap room, and then Arizona ate cap room. And ironically, the Rangers paid more for Arizona to eat cap room than Minnesota or other deals. They gave up a third as opposed to the fourth and the fifth that have gone. So clearly the Rangers are opting for skill over grit, which is just, if you look at the constitution of the top 9, that's what it is, right? It's not really how Gerard Gallant always likes to play, right? He always talks about going north-south as opposed to east-west. The difference is, to a certain extent, is Kane has the ability to go into the dirty areas. He scores in the dirty areas. He's not a perimeter player per se. Tarasenko is a big body. The big problem is whether or not defensively especially through the neutral zone, they're going to be able to slow oppositions up. I mean, that's the big problem with the top 9 right now, is that it's an offense first. Defense is secondary. I mean, Zibanejad is fine defensively. Trocheck is not bad defensively. Kreider can do it when he wants to be, but the knocks was at times on Kane and Tarasenko, as that's the case. Then you look at the fourth line, which is now a better line with VC, Mott, and Goodrow. It's not a difference maker, an agitator, a forechecking type fourth line. It's a solid fourth line, not one that's going to like turn a game over or make a difference. And now yesterday with Mott getting hit in the head by Austin Watson, and the NHL Department of Player Safety continues to confound me every single time they come up with a ruling, how they say that
was an absolute joke. I was watching the game at that point, and I'm like, okay, this was clearly elbow to the jaw of Mott. Mott went down. He was discombobulated, and they gave him the 5, but they
then they gave him the game.
And they gave him
and on the replay, they gave him the game, which should be an indication in terms of what the extent of the penalty was. Yet the NHL Player Safety basically has their thumb up their you-know-where and screwed up again. So the problem now with the Rangers is they've already been playing shorthanded. We've learned that you can play with 11 and 5, though not always effectively well, because Keandre Miller is rightly suspended 3 games for the spitting incident. You have Ryan Lindgren, who has got a shoulder injury. None of us know if that's a long-term injury type thing or a short-term injury type things, but he's been out. They were shorthanded. Defense. They had 12 forwards. Now they're down to 11, and they have no cap room to add anybody right now based upon how close the cap is.
I got to jump in because there definitely has been cap screw-ups here. Like, they should have known well before they made this trade exactly what their next 3 moves were going to do, so they wouldn't be short-handed all these games. That's a mistake.
Agreed.
They have somebody
100%.
just dedicated to that. I know you would agree. Here's the 2 biggest things that is a mistake team-wise. The Rangers can never bring in a star player and just make them a player. They always overdo it. So now you took the best shot you have on the power play, Zibanejad, off the wall. You put Kane there. Kane doesn't possess the puck like he used to. He got the puck stolen from him like twice off the wall because Ottawa's physical. The physical part of Ottawa did give the Rangers problems. But the other problem is, besides screwing up the power play, because now Zibanejad at the bumper is terrible because he's got the best shot, but it has to be a one-timer. You can't do a one-timer from the bumper. It's got to be like a touch pass thing, and it's hard to do. So they get not enough shots, too much movement, and now you're asking Trocheck to play high defensively, which is not his game either. And this all has to gel. That's why this move was questionable in my mind, because these are a lot of adjustments that have to be made, and already yesterday they played it by the Ranger playbook for the last 20 years.
Mike, go ahead, because I'm going to respond to Russ's 2 comments when you're done.
Yeah. No, I just wanted to ask you, Jan, because we saw yesterday that the league sort of waved off one of their emergency recalls. And the only thing that we could think of is there's a limit in terms of salary that you can call up, and that was the reason why.
So there's 2 things. So let me take Russ's 2 points, and I'll dovetail it to the salary. So let me take the power play. So I'm not in love with Zibanejad being off the wall, but he did score on a one-timer in the prior game against Philly, which was from the slot, which was the same thing. So he can score there. Look, I'm going to give him a little bit of a pass because yesterday was all discombobulated. Saturday's game is going to be the same. The good news is they have 4 days off before they play again. So they'll have 4 days of practice to try to work on this. Then, of course, they have 19 games in 36 days. So clearly it's a stretch run to the end. In terms of your cap question, and I'll dovetail it to Mike's point, you're 100% right. They should have known 3 moves in advance. I've been saying all year, I know lots of others who are way smarter than me, Hockey Stat Manor and a couple of other guys. They should have been doing paper moves all year long to try to free up cap room, right? If you know you're tight already and the player doesn't level, like Braden Schneider had the right comment. He goes, look, I understand why they did it. They explained it to me, which is the 2 days he was sent to Hartford. If you had the communication at the beginning of the year saying, hey, guys, we're going to attempt to bring in a couple of big name guys. We're going to be tight on the cap. We need to create some additional space. You do this throughout the year. You can create $500,000 to $750,000. How nice would it have been if they had that room? Nick Bukestad, Edmonton had $451,000 in cap. They got Arizona to eat half of it. That was $450K. They were able to bring in a 4th-line guy who's a perfect 4th-line guy there. The NHL, the ruling is basically you can call up guys on an emergency basis. The ruling that the NHL made is the Rangers, as Russ said, screwed up on their own right? They could have recalled. They could have not sent Schneider down. They could have had him up when Miller got suspended. But because they opted to go for the trade, as opposed to leaving either Ryan Carpenter or leaving Braden Schneider up, because they ended up doing that, they basically, in essence, out of their own volition, put themselves into a form of cap purgatory. and therefore not allowed to bring them up. What they can do, though, if they do get accepted for an emergency case in the future, the maximum they're limited to is what the maximum NHL, with the minimum NHL salary now, which is $850,000. So, for example, there's a guy in the minors, I forgot who his apologies, making $925,000, Zach Jones, right? They can't call Zach Jones up because he's making more than the emergency minimum, but they can call up Will Cooley. They can call up Jake Lecision. They can.
I apologize for interrupting, guys, real quick. I'm sorry, Jen. You can go right back to that. But Dmitry Kulikov's going to the Penguins. I'll be right back.
Okay.
And also they could call up Will Lockwood, who just came over in the Vitaly Kravtsov deal. All four of those guys are making under $850,000, so they can potentially.
He wasn't bad when he was up either.
No, I mean, right. Agreed. So one of those guys could be called up, presuming the NHL allows him to him. If Mott is hurt, and obviously Miller is still suspended, Lindgren is hurt, they may get a case to be able, from an emergency basis, to bring up one of those four guys. Unless, if Mott goes on long-term IR, then you free up salary to be able to use if you want to necessarily try to make a trade and bring somebody in.
Okay. We'll just touch on what Actis reported, which was Dmitry Kulikov. It was one of the 3 unrestricted free agent defensemen for the Anaheim Ducks going to the Pittsburgh Penguins. Now, the Penguins added Michael Granlund yesterday or the day before. I think it was the day before. So they made a couple ads, and they benefited Russ from St. Louis claiming Kasperi Kapanen, who had clearly worn out his welcome in Pittsburgh, off of waivers. I don't know.
Yeah, they've been trying to move him for months.
Yeah, and I don't know if that was something like wink, wink, nudge, nudge, Doug Armstrong, do us a favor and pick him up, and we'll send you a pick later on, or if that was genuine interest by the Blues. The Blues seem to be sort of and I'm not casting aspersions here, but they seem to be the dumping zone for like Pittsburgh past Kasperi Kapanen. Now today, Jan, Jacob Vrana goes from Detroit to St. Louis for a 7th round pick, and Detroit's eating half the salary. He's got a year left. So St. Louis in the interim of them trading O'Reilly, trading Achari, trading out all these players, they're taking on players too.
Yeah, well, it's interesting. So they've kind of modified their top 9 by bringing in, I think it was 3 guys now, as you kind of mentioned, right? Kapanen being one, Vrana being another. They brought in Sammy Blais, who they signed for an extra year. So they've really kind of changed their 1/3 of their top 9. Kapanen had worn out his welcome in Pittsburgh. They're trying to pay his salary.
We should have it playing together at some point. We should. That's
yep,
a fun
exactly. And look, good for Blais. He got a 1-year contract. Look, I don't hold him any ill will. It wasn't his fault he got traded. Obviously, PK Subban basically killed him last year with tearing his ACL, and he struggled to regain his speed. Basically Pittsburgh, the ironic part, I know there's a lot of calls for Hextall to be shown the door because he got rid of Kapanen and Bluger and brought in a guy who's making $5 million for next year, and Michael Granlund, who there's some questions as to how much of an upgrade he is there. The Kulikov move, look, we all knew that Anaheim was going to move him. The only question was as to where he was going to go. Kulikov was a guy who I was looking for if the Rangers got him earlier in the season. I didn't have a problem with him coming in as their 3rd pair left-handed defenseman. So decent move by Pittsburgh. Whether or not that's going to be sufficient enough to kind of allow them to eke out the 1st or the 2nd wild card kind of remains to be seen. I mean, Granlund has not been as good, especially 5x5, as he has been in the past.
And Bonino, and they added Bonino.
Right, Bonino came in, and he basically, the best shot was let's take a picture of Bonino in a Pittsburgh jersey and post it as the Photoshop, given that he got to go back, right? And Bonino is a solid 4th-line ad for them. They just got Tristan Jarry back from injury. So Pittsburgh clearly is making some moves to try to remain in contention for that 1st or 2nd wild card spot.
Yeah, again, with the nature of Jeff Carter's play, Granlund's a good pickup for them. People could kill Hextall all they want. They had to get a real center. And Jeff Carter is not that anymore. They'll put him on the wing. He maybe will do something, but he wasn't doing anything as a center, and they need that. So I think, there weren't that many centers out there. I think Bonino is good because Bonino could always penalty kill. And
I think the problem, Russ, was the fact that Granlund has got, I think, 2 more years at $5 million.
I know, but whatever. You can't worry about that today.
We have to worry about it soon.
Well, I know, but this is a team that's really only got 2 years. So, I mean, that's what they're looking at. I do want to say something about the chat room because with JVR to Seattle, that was one of my original teams for them. And we'll see. I know Dave Haxtell likes him. It's really, slim pickings with the Flyers and what they might get at this point. At some point, we can talk about their massive trade.
Yeah.
So, but okay, nobody laughed. That's
No.
We got it. That's why we figured we didn't have to touch that, considering it was tongue in cheek.
Okay, try the brisket, and there you go.
Tip your waiters. I'm here till Wednesday.
Yeah, there you go. What is this? The marvelous Mr. Cohen. Yeah, there you go.
Yeah.
Okay, let's talk about the hilarious deals. And I know Russ has an opinion on this one. Brendan Lemieux going from the LA King, former Ranger Brendan Lemieux going from the LA Kings to the Philadelphia Flyers for Zach McEwen. Russ, go.
So here's the thing. Chuck Fletcher is literally today at Voorhees, and he is there alone. There's no team practicing. There's no Torts there. There's nobody. And so at 3:00, he has to announce something. And the Kings obviously wanted to get rid of Brendan Lemieux, like most teams do after a while. And so they did, and they gave him a 5th-round pick to do it. I knew it wasn't going to be a 2023. So, they accept the 2024, and they take a roster player that, if he plays under John Tortorella, might play with his, at his personal worst. But he's got talent. He could score a little bit, and he goes too far in everything. He goes too far with penalties. He goes too far with everything. So, again, I did put on Twitter that this is a Torts kind of guy, and it is, and that got mixed reaction. But it's a Torts kind of guy because he plays overly aggressive, and we're all familiar with how he plays. Look, Zach McEwen, for what he was doing on the Flyers, did that well. He was never going to be there long term. I felt bad when he got his jaw broken. So the fact that he's coming back from that is a big deal. He always gave it his all. He's not going to be a scorer. Torts was hoping he could get points out of him. Like, look, he doesn't have hands.
Where?
Nobody talked about it, Mike.
Oh, my God.
Not like being a big scorer, but just,
that's blowing smoke up somebody's rectum.
You look at his points. He's had his best year this year. So in Torts' world, that's a win, Mike. But in the end, what Chuck Fletcher is looking for are draft picks to sort of come out of this with something. And he's selling low. For Zach McEwen, that's fine. Don't get me wrong. But everything else, he's going to have a low on. And, it is what it is for them. I mean, even in the TSN fake draft, they came in 8th. Now, there's good players at 8th, and if you want someday, I'll talk about who might be there. But
it might be later on today.
It might be later on today. I mean, my top 45 is on sportsology.com. You can check it out. Those are rankings. It's not a mock, but I can talk about who might be there at 8. But the point is, they're in that area where it's really a bad place to be, because that mushy middle is like, hey, you're not winning Connor Bedard unless a miracle happens. You're not making the playoffs. You're not getting enough draft picks. You aren't loaded with prospects. You have cap trouble. Sounds a lot like the Vancouver Canucks. So for your fans of the Vancouver Canucks, I just described your team too.
Well, and San Jose,
place to be.
And San Jose, and Montreal. I mean, San Jose and Montreal have more picks.
Montreal's a little more hope, I guess.
Yeah, but they're loaded down with bad contracts. Yeah. Gallagher, Drouin. I mean, Drouin's expiring at the end of the year, but Gallagher, Drouin, Dvorak. So I mean, I don't know. So okay, that's one deal. Some fairly inconsequential deals like Curtis Lazar going to New Jersey for a 4th-round pick. Curtis Lazar is a good depth forward.
Another penalty killer.
He's a good add for New Jersey. Put him on the 4th line. Applies that lineup a little bit.
And the interesting thing here, Jan, is that he's got 2 more years at $1 million bucks. So it's a very economical signing and a good guy, a good player, hustles. He's a role player, but I don't think there's anybody's complaining about getting Curtis Lazar.
I mean, especially since they're going to have to pay Jesper Bratt pretty soon, right? Which is going to suck up a decent amount of cap space as well.
Here's what I would say about Curtis Lazar, right? I was obviously at his draft, and there was a high anticipation of him going, pretty high, which he did, 17, and being a really good player in the NHL. The problem was he plateaued early, and that happens But what I give him great credit for is he is stuck in this league. Like, he turned himself into a hard to play against player, a hard hitter, a penalty killer, and instead of being like a guy you would call a draft bust, is, become an everyday NHLer. And that's hard to do, especially for sometimes when guys are picked kind of high and don't reach that, what everybody's expecting them, the expectation. So I give Lazar a lot of credit. It is a good pickup for New Jersey.
Now, the report, I believe somebody in the chat said Emily Kaplan was reporting, I saw TSN report, that it's a 3rd round pick for Kulikov. This guy, he's been around. He's, Winnipeg, Buffalo.
It's a good ad.
Good ad, but it's, solid defenseman. He's, later in his career, he's like basically a 5'6" left-hand shot, but, capable defender. So I don't think that's, but, now we're seeing Ron Hextall, Kulikov, Bonino, Granlund. There was a lot of speculation, Jan, that Mike Sullivan wanted them to be in on Chychrun, and they weren't in on Chychrun, or they were in on him, but they couldn't match the price that Ottawa was willing to pay. That apparently Hextall didn't want to trade that draft capital, but he's ended up trading a 2nd round pick for Granlund. He's ended up trading a 3rd round pick for Kulikov, and I think it was a 7th round pick or something like that for Bonino. So he's traded draft capital, but just not 1st round picks.
Well, and that's the difference, right? And we also think that Ottawa didn't give up as much as we expected it to for Chychrun, given what the expectations and the reports were in terms of what the ask was. And you see what Ottawa gave up, and you're a bit surprised that the other teams that were rumored to be in the mix for a guy who's only 24, signed for a pretty good contract with several years of term still remaining, didn't garner either more interest or didn't garner enough interest for somebody who basically needs help on defense. And I understand Pittsburgh not wanting to give up a 1st rounder, but if you look at what Chychrun could have brought to that blue line, especially for the time that Chris Letang is out, unfortunately, with injury and other reasons, he would have been a really good add for them defensively. Now he goes to Ottawa, who has Thomas Chabot already, has Jake Sanderson, building a pretty solid blue line and lots of young forwards. They're clearly a team on the rise right now, and Chychrun's, as I said, only 24 with several years of term remaining.
Well, here's what I want to say, though. Pittsburgh media and fans are really in a bad place. And honestly, this isn't Ron Hextall's fault. Who did you want? What did you want them to do? With new ownership, did you really think they were going to rebuild and start trading Crosby, Letang, and everybody else? No. They want playoff revenue. They're going to ride these guys till the very last minute. So what's Ron Hextall supposed to do? He's a guy that used to be a guy that wanted to build slowly. He can't build slowly with that happening. So he has to kind of make trades for the way the team is, and he's got Mike Sullivan barking at him. I'm not saying he's doing a great job, but I'm just saying I don't know who's coming in and doing a better job with what they have and what they don't have. That's the whole thing. I mean, again, did you want them to not be a playoff team? Is that what Penguins fans want? Did you want them to get, I don't know, name a top player, like even Chychrun? Look, he got crumpled in the corner yesterday.
I know. I said that in our group text. It's like, geez, this guy's always been hurt his entire career, and his first game in Ottawa is going to get hurt again.
I mean, Pittsburgh just beat Tampa. What if Pittsburgh beat Tampa in the playoffs? We would all be shocked, but then we'd say, they had one last one in them. And that's what this whole franchise is running on. So I just want to know, what can they do better? Nobody says what they can do better. Everybody's just bitching about this. And I just like to know.
Here's what I find interesting. If somebody made a straight up trade of pick for player for Dmitry Kulikov, between you got, what round pick do you think would have been fair straight up for him?
3rd or 4th.
Yeah, 4th.
Right. So Pittsburgh gave up a 3rd and gave up McGinn, and Anaheim is eating part of the $2.75 million that remains on the deal for the next 3 years. Wouldn't you think that would require more than just a 3rd rounder going back if you're assuming salary for several more seasons, if you just to give up Kulikov? If you put as a 3rd or 4th straight up, now you're taking on salary, and all you got is a 3rd. Seems like they got undervalued from what they wanted.
Jan, they have to, because they have to get to the cap floor.
I understand that, but you're also assuming salary, right? So with that should come at a cost is normally how it works. You have teams that have brokered deals like the Ranger deal with them eating $2.65 million, $2.62 million for 1 year, and they had to give up a 3rd rounder for that luxury. So I'm just saying, I would have thought Anaheim would have required a bit more of a payback in order to take on some of McGinn's salary.
Yeah, I mean, McGinn has
2.75 through 24-25, I think. Right. So that's not 1 year. That's several more seasons you're taking on salary.
Yeah.
Now the other thing I've been hearing, I was on the phone with they're trying to get finalized, if it's possible or not, or if it's happening, is the Sabres have been very aggressive about trying to get Tom Wilson today. And I was told that, now that's an interesting move for them, if they can pull it off.
Well, he's got term.
Yeah, he's got term, and and I was
He's
kind of,
still hurt.
I
He's not
didn't think he was somebody
He's
that
got,
they would.
he's got one more year left after this year at $5.166 million.
Yeah, I didn't necessarily see the Capitals trading him, but I guess they're willing to, and
I think they're listening. He is one of their core guys, though.
yeah, he is one of their core guys.
But
for
he
sure.
hasn't been the same since he came back from the ACL injury.
Well, I talked about that whole saga. Like he came back too soon. Like it was obvious to me he was coming back too soon, and the results are what they are. But next year he should be healthy, so he could help somebody. And
Yeah,
I mean,
a little like Sammy Blais there, Russ.
They're loaded with assets.
Well,
A little like Sammy Blais coming back too soon.
yeah, but a different character.
No,
yeah,
maybe. Analogy is guys coming off of ACLs rushing to get back.
right.
But this is the thing, and this is always a factor when you talk about players from the GTA. If they can't play for Toronto, they want to play for Buffalo. Jeff Skinner, when he went to Carolina, when he was in Carolina, he got traded to Buffalo. One of the reasons why he wanted a long-term deal with the Sabres is because his family is from Southern Ontario, and it's very easy for them to come down to QEW and watch him play. You think that that's not a big factor, but I Wilson is from the Toronto area, I believe.
Players love Wilson, and Wilson's good in the locker room.
Yeah.
And I know fans hate Wilson, but I'm telling you, I knew this guy before the draft. And I always talk to Tom Wilson, and he is terrific to talk to. He may be a jerk on the ice.
Yeah,
He's a hell of an athlete, and he could really help a team.
Yeah,
and don't you think? I mean, that would be a great move for them. I mean, I think it would be like
depending on what the Sabres are giving up.
Yeah,
I
true,
mean,
but
they could extend Wilson in the summer, and it probably would cost a lot to do it, but they have the cap space. But
and Matthias Samuelson in the same lineup, there's going to be some worry about guys getting crunched out there on the ice.
Tuck is
Yeah,
a
right.
good player. So
I know the Bruins also made inquiries. Now it's interesting.
How many more freaking goons can that team get?
Can you imagine if they got him? I mean, that would be kind of insane.
The only thing worse would be Tampa getting him. I mean, it's just my goodness.
So I wrote about Tampa and Seattle trying to figure out Klingberg. Klingberg doesn't have a whole lot of
Suitors.
Yeah.
suitors, a whole lot of
Well,
value.
the $7 million salary doesn't help either. I mean, he's got a pretty substantive cap hit this year that's probably playing a big role in it.
Well,
no, it's like a huge role.
That's all.
Huge role for sure. And they'll take on part of that. They'll probably take on half of it if they get the right offer.
Yeah, and you call Arizona for the other.
Yeah.
The other 25%.
I don't know. Have they assumed more? Have they assumed 3 caps though already, Arizona, or they only have 2? Right? Because you're only allowed a max of 3.
True. I think
by the way, this is one of the things I wrote. This is one of the things I wrote in my blog, Ek, and I want to get your opinion on this. And I'm real surprised it didn't come up before. So let's look at the Ranger deal. Right? They got Nico Mikkola and they got back Vladimir Tarasenko. Per the way the deals work now, you can only assume the salary of one player. If you make a combined deal, why not just be able to take the combined salaries? You need up to 50% of the overall salary as opposed to only doing it for one individual player. It would free up a lot more deals. And honestly, you wouldn't have to worry about, I can only do X, Y, and Z because 2 players in a deal, I'm eating one combined deal. I can still do 2 more deals similarly.
Yeah.
I agree. I like it a lot. I mean, that makes sense to me. It does.
Tarasenko was 7.5 and Mikkola
Tarasenko was I think 3.5. Mikkola was 1.9. Right. So but again, given the conversation we had earlier, right? If St. Louis had been able to eat $950,000 per se of that deal, gives the Rangers flexibility, knowing they're in a cap constraint, allows them to make another move if they wanted to, and the team that is willing to take on that cap space may bump the asset that they get back because they're not only eating 1 cap, they're eating 2 of them.
And Tarasenko scored a Forsberg last night. People should look it up. It was unbelievable.
He did. I saw it.
I know. I mean, there was a little bit.
And against the same guy who gave up a Forsberg.
You guys were talking about last night a little bit, and watching it, it was did you get that feeling of like the Harlem Globetrotters type feeling to it that they were playing around with?
Too much of that. It's not going to help them.
No, I know they won't. I don't think that's not like a thing that goes permanently. It's just like it's the initial impact. I mean,
it did have that feeling.
it had that feeling of like, like they were obviously looking for Kane way too often in the beginning, especially.
Way too much.
And I mean, there were some nice moves there, and there were some nice plays. It was exciting. I mean, it was definitely, I wish I'd been there. It's one kind of thing you just would love to have been there, because it was kind of cool, and fun to see. And I just like, when guys get traded and they show play in new uniforms, I always think is the coolest thing in the world. But yeah, that was something. I mean, I know, Russ, you have your
I'll show
your
you
Ranger baggage. Ranger baggage.
Aaron gave a lead pass to Kane, and he got caught by the defense.
Yeah, no, I saw that. Broussard
Years
stripped him once too. Yeah, no, I definitely saw that happen. There's no question. I mean, and I think he was nervous too. It did look nervous to me, like that. I haven't seen Kane look nervous
possible
very much.
Yeah, I mean, the thing is, and I'm not saying that Tom Wilson and an acquisition of Tom Wilson wouldn't be helpful to the Sabres.
Right.
Really, the acquisition that they need to make is a goaltender, and from all the indications right now, they're not going to do it. They're not going to make a trade for Varlamov if he was available, for James Reimer. They're reportedly going to go with the three-headed monster of Comrie, UPL, and Craig Anderson. And to me, Russ, that's a recipe for not making the playoffs. I think
that's what they're going with. Like, I know that's what he said a week ago. If they're holding to that, they're going to miss.
They did make some calls, I was told, about the Arizona goalie. Can't think of his name.
Oh,
yeah. Which I think is a good move if they could do that.
Well, yeah, sure. But I mean, right now, Arizona. I don't think Arizona's concerned about fielding a team, honestly. Basically,
Arizona State has goalies, Mike. They could just use one of them.
Yeah, they could use one of those. That's true.
Yeah, there's a Zamboni driver in Toronto who might be interested. But yeah, no, I don't get it. This fan base in Buffalo wants this team to take a legitimate run at the playoffs. They're not saying sell,
right,
significant prospects. They're just saying, trade a draft pick for a rental goalie. It's not going to affect the camaraderie and the chemistry of this team. I don't get it, other than that there's some sort of fiscal restraint on this team. And if that's the case, then you have to call into consideration the ownership of the team and not devoting the assets. Now they're signing some of their young players to long-term deals, but there's a reason to do that, because you're getting them for pennies on the dollar. Dylan Cousins might be much better than a $7 million player. We know Tage Thompson is much better than a $7 million player. So, and I think they got Samuelson on a good deal too. So yeah,
that's their last piece. Like, they need this piece to work out. Look, Devin Levi may be it, but if they're waiting on that, they're waiting 2 more years.
Right. Yeah. I think it's short-sighted, but we have an hour and a half to go till the deadline.
Well, here's another thing. I'm just putting this up now. On the rumor tracker. The Kings have made several calls to try to get Varlamov. Now the Islanders have been saying, no. I mean, obviously Lou's like, no, we're not going to trade him because we're in this thing. But I was told that, kind of like way off the record, that there's a price, there's a price that they will do it. Like there's a point at which they'll say, yeah, sure.
Is there a price for Mike Ogello? Like if somebody calls today?
Yeah, there is. Like I love those like Boston cream donuts, no, I'm just kidding.
So how many of those?
Half dozen.
Wait, depend from whom though? Does it have to be from a specific place?
Tim Horton.
Yeah, I'm a Dunkin' Donut guy. So yeah, I would say a Dunkin' Donuts. It would have to be from there, and after that, just future considerations.
Okay.
No, but
like I traded back down the road.
How many beaver tails?
Yeah, and couple bottles of Take a Boost. All right, so yeah, Varlamov on the Kings would be pretty good. I mean, that would definitely be an interesting twist, right? Like. Mike laughed,
pissed
right?
Mike off. He's gone.
Yeah, I can pull him back in. There he is. I can make him come back. He doesn't know that, but I can't. Right. Okay. Let's not. I like this power position up here in the top left, though.
Yeah, that's better for you, I think.
You said something about power,
Mike. Are you hanging upside down for a second? I was just curious if you were. All right. So.
Lines.
No. Okay. Anyway, so All right, here's the thing. Like Lou doesn't trade goalies, and obviously they limp both these guys. So I think it's very doubtful.
He doesn't want to mess with Sorokin's psyche.
This will Mike Milbury. He would trade a goalie. We know that.
He doesn't want to
Yeah.
mess with Sorokin's
Yeah, that worked
psyche.
out well for Milbury too.
Yeah, I know. The other thing is, so you guys were talking about JVR. The Flyers went a second and a fourth.
Yeah, good luck.
Just saying.
I think they'll get the fourth, maybe.
2027?
The Devils.
That'd be like a
They're dreaming,
256 deal,
in
or
Technicolor. They're
Lou
dreaming in Technicolor.
Lamoriello 315 deal because the fax machine didn't work properly.
Yeah, right. The Devils are very much interested in him. Seattle is too, as you pointed out, Russ. Obviously they know him out there. But I do think New Jersey has like one more move up their sleeve today.
Sure, I feel that too, because they know they're matching up against the Rangers. They've seen what the Rangers have done, and honestly, they're about the same as the Rangers defensively. So that series will be an issue of the goalies, I think. And so I think they're just probably wanting to tighten up a little bit more. I could see them getting one more defenseman. Because look, let's be honest, Luke Hughes is not going to be running in there and playing every day in the playoffs.
Right. I mean, they would love to trade Blackwood. They've tried to trade Blackwood.
Yeah.
And I think I don't know, Blackwood's not a bad risk. I think that I would give him a shot, honestly. If you have the money to do it for the cap space, I would take a shot with him. Honestly. Blackwood.
That would be someplace that Buffalo should go.
Yeah, right. Yeah, absolutely. I mean, and could be weird because they could end up, playing each other, but you never know. But the whole thing is, we're going to see that in LA, right? So I really, really, really am pulling for Edmonton to win the division now because I just want to see the LA Vegas thing. That's we got to happen.
So Jan, I mean, I think this is what you were referring to, but in that McGinn Kulikov deal, Anaheim's paying part of Kulikov, and they're taking the full hit on McGinn, which, like I said, I think that's purely because they're going to, they're going to trade Klingberg. They're going to trade. They've already traded off. They need to stay at the cap floor, stay above the cap floor, and they need that salary over the next couple of years because they're going to be a budget team. Even if they draft a guy like Connor, but even if they have the number one pick in Connor Bedard, they don't have a ton of guys who are making big money. They'd rather trade for somebody who's got 2 years and sign somebody who's for 3 or 4 years. It makes more sense.
No, I agree with you. But the point I'm making is you have taken on salary in that deal. You've taken on $2.75 million for next year and the year after, right?
Yeah.
So that normally usually comes with a price. Like this year, the salaries are almost a wash. I mean, 2.75 and Kulikov is at 2.25, and let's say they're paying $1 million of it, right? You've now given them an asset for this year, but more importantly, you've basically freed up $2.75 million for each of the next 2 seasons for Pittsburgh to utilize, which normally comes with a cost. So if you would have said, look, we got like a third and a sixth or a third and a fifth, I would have blinked.
Less. But actually less because he cleared waivers, so they got the 1.1.
I think you have to send them down again, though. The next year, it doesn't matter. So if you do it next year, just because he cleared waivers now, he's got to go down again. But even if you taking on the difference, you send him down, it's $1.8 million of cap space based upon what the minimum is. You're still taking on cap space, which normally has a cost associated with it.
Right. That's true. I lost my train of thought for a second there. The Flyers have talked to Vancouver about Provorov. There's no question about that. I don't think it's going to happen now. I think it could happen in the summer. We're definitely seeing some contingency type things being talked about now. The other really, if you want to go really out there, the craziest thing that could happen today is this. And I heard it from a couple people, and no one thinks it's going to happen, but it's worth noting that the Blues have had discussions about Erik Karlsson. Okay, now
I mean that would just be idiotic. They're already overloaded unless they're trading a Parayko or a Fall.
I mean, Parayko would go in the deal, I was told.
Yeah.
Okay, so Parayko they would like to move Parayko. So in a way, that's like getting someone to take on cap space, right? So that's getting a third team involved. They have enough first round draft picks to make it happen. Like they have enough picks for San Jose to bite on that. The question is, you just have to wonder, is Eriksson worth it? Like, is he good? Erik Karlsson. I always call him Eriksson. Sorry, Karlsson. is Carlson worth it? And is he going to stay healthy and is he going to be okay? That is but I really, 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 it is true that the discussions have gone on.
Well, there's no real savings in this deal because, okay, say for example, Parayko is part of a deal for Carlson. Okay, Carlson is making 11.5 for 4 more years. That's 23, 6 million.
Right.
6 mil.
Parayko is making $6.5 million for another 7 years. It's around the same amount.
Just a longer term, that's all.
And it's longer
Yeah.
term, right?
And you're saving $3 million a year.
Well, but I'm saying, you're saving
$5 million. Sorry, you're saving $5 million for the first 4 years, right? That's
right.
There'll be more involved. I mean, you're looking at first round draft picks and stuff like that too, Mike. You're like looking at so it would be like Parayko and 2 firsts, that kind of thing.
In terms of net money, it's not very different. If
net money, it's doable. That's the point. And the thing about Carlson is net money wasn't doable for Edmonton. So
right.
This with them, it is doable. They could make it happen. They want to move on Parayko. And that's definitely the whole. They want to move. I was talking to somebody out there about Parayko, and they're like they just. It's amazing how far he's fallen on that in that organization. Like just incredible to me. Like,
well, I mean,
And by the way, he had a monster game last night.
Yeah.
He had a phenomenal game last night.
I think right now, similar to the Sanheim situation in Philadelphia, teams are scared of now. Okay, you've got one guy with 8-year term, another guy with 8-year term, and if things have soured a little bit on them, they all of a sudden are really scared about that looming term, and if they can find any way to get out of it, that might be something that they investigate. I mean, honestly, it's like, how can your opinion of some player change within a couple months?
Yeah, I know exactly right, and. Now, the thing I always go back, and Kevin said this too. We've had, and Kevin and I have talked about this many times, is the Blues are not a tear it down team. And these picks that they've gotten, imply that they are. So in a lot of ways, I think that it would not surprise me at all for them to package some picks and get a current player. Just that I think is what their goal was. I don't know why they didn't end up with Chychrun, because I really felt like they were going to, but they didn't. So
yeah,
just harkening back to what I said before. So we talked about the Bonino trade, right? We've talked about third party playing facilitators. Montreal is playing the third party broker as part of I don't know how much they're taking on board. Let's say they are taking 40-50%, which is about a mil. I think it's 2.1 mil this year. Bonino, they're getting a 5th round draft pick for the trouble. So I'm sorry, I bring back my point against Anaheim. I hate to be a broken record, but that's just poor asset management. You've taken on money for 2 more years, even if you want to get to the floor. And in essence, you got back the pick you likely would have gotten if you just dealt them directly.
Right. That's a good point. It's a really good point.
Right, and the 5th round pick seems to be the going rate. I mean, 2 teams got 5th round.
Yeah.
Pick. One team got a 4th, and the Rangers actually gave up a 3rd, and they probably gave up a bit more money. The Rangers taking on board, but
I think the Leafs
gave up a lot to facilitate that deal.
I think the Leafs gave up a 4th in the O'Reilly deal with Minnesota.
Right. So it's 2. Minnesota got a 5th in the deal. Right now, there's 2 teams that got 5ths, 1 team that got a 4th, and Arizona got a 3rd from the Rangers as part of the Kane deal.
Yeah. Let me just say, I have a lot of sympathy for Vladislav Nemestikov, because in the span of 48 hours, he's been traded from Tampa to San Jose to Winnipeg. So you've gone from a really nice place to live in Tampa and a really beautiful place to live to San Jose to Winnipeg. And I'm not, I'm just saying
you're demeaning Winnipeg again. He's going to come on and go ballistic when he comes on.
What do you think? I'm doing it to egg him on to come on and insult me to my face. But no, but I'm just saying now, Winnipeg's going to be a playoff team. So he's jumping from, a team that's close to being last to a team that's in the mix. But still, it sort of sucks. I mean, that really, you get moved from point A to point B to point C. It's like, it's one move, but not 2 moves.
Right.
I'm hoping he's got frequent flyer miles. Let's put it that way.
I mean, the Jets did do something today, right? But I think that they have not done much, considering that they're sort of a team in trouble of falling out of the playoffs. They really are. I mean, they could fall out of the playoffs. Yeah,
I mean, I think they said they've lost 6 in a row. I mean, they need Hellebuyck to start playing the way he's played for most of the season. Apparently, Logan Stanley is asked to be traded. I mean, I've always thought that their defense was a little shallow.
Yeah.
Morrissey's having a fantastic year, but I didn't think the depth on defense. Remember they traded for Nate Schmidt. Nate Schmidt is not the greatest defender. Pionk, Jan knows a lot about Pionk coming from the Rangers.
Sure.
But there's not a ton of depth there. And I wouldn't be surprised if there is, there was talk about them being in on Klingberg too, because of connection between him and their head coach from Dallas. But Russ was quick to point out, well, he didn't think that relationship was that great. I don't know. It's like familiarity seems to be the thing here with teams. At this deadline, because you see like guys like Bonino going back to Pittsburgh. You see guys.
Kevin needs a link, by the way. I just texted. I don't know if you saw that.
I sent it to him, but okay.
Yeah, okay. I'm sorry.
The point you made. So they did get Niederreiter, which I thought they got actually for a pretty good deal in Winnipeg. I do think they need help on the blue line. Hellebuck. Look, you can't have the goalie playing so far above his head for the entire season, right? To basically pull your team out and rescue them every night. At times, he is going to falter. Dubois being hurt now clearly hasn't helped matters. He's been obviously missed the last game, dealing with whatever you believe the injury to be. And there's obviously mixed reports in terms of what the injury actually is right now. But they've been very up and down offensively. When they're hot, as I saw in the Ranger game, they could basically beat anybody. And when their top six struggle, they don't have enough depth to do it, which is why they've added in Nemesnikov now, why they brought in Niederreiter. The West is finally making moves. As referred to as by Jeff Mack and Dave Friedman, they called it the Eastern Octagon, right? You look at the East is actually just flat out loaded right now. You look at the matchups, the first two rounds, it's insane.
Yeah, it's sickening. Hey, Kev, welcome.
Hey.
Hello, Kevin.
I'm doing my best Brian Burke imitation here.
Yeah, that's good.
Yeah. So some of the deals made today, nothing of major consequence, of Nemesnikov moving to Winnipeg, Dmitry Kulikov to Pittsburgh. We were just talking about the Penguins. In the span of 24 to 48 hours, Granlund, Bonino, and Kulikov. Obviously this team is loading up for what they hope is a playoff run.
Well, for sure, and they should. They've already committed to Letang and Crosby and Malkin. You can't be half in or half out. You got to be all in or all out. And, some teams have decided, the Nashville Predators have decided they're out. And,
yet they're still in.
So, they are. That's happened to the Red Wings, too. The Red Wings are still hanging in there, but, but they're out. And, the Washington Capitals are a great example. They're the biggest seller going. And I think they're only 3 points out of a playoff spot now. So,
isn't that crazy?
But there's some interesting things today. I think the Jets acquisition of Nemesnikov is sneaky good. He's a guy that can be real valuable at playoff time. He can play. He's very comfortable on the second line. He was on the Red Wings first line for a while last year, so he could play in a top six role. He's an exceptional checker. Always very popular in the locker room. Always very popular with coaches. His skill surprises you. So, I really like this deal from Winnipeg. They're looking just for guys that have been around the block, know how to play in the postseason, and that's Nemesnikov. And it doesn't cost a lot. 4th round pick. I thought that was a really good move.
It's a slick move.
I did want to make a comment about the Verana deal. And
I was going to ask you about that.
I want to be careful on this because I have no idea. Really no idea about what has been happening behind the scenes. I don't know what happened with Verana. I don't know what his issues were. But I want to point out that the perception of this is terrible for the Players Assistance Program. And for this reason.
That's a great point.
This just looks bad. Now, again, I don't know. Maybe all of this is warranted, but I'm just going to say the perception looks bad. I don't know what's been happening. I don't know what Verana has done. But, he entered the program, and you're supposed to be able to enter the program without repercussions. He entered the program. When he went in, people saw him as one of the Red Wings' leading scorer. When he's come out, they sent him down to the minors for conditioning, and then he put him through waivers, and then they just assigned him to the minor leagues. They almost, they scratched him down. I mean, the Red Wings technically didn't do it, but I can't imagine the Griffins would have done it without the Red Wings blessings. And that is, they scratched him in the minors.
Yeah, right.
He finally played. It looked like he was never, ever going to come back. They did bring him up, but they didn't play him right away. He's only played 3 games. People say they were showcasing him. And, I asked the direct question. Well, because of this, I mean, it's almost like, all of a sudden now they're talking about how he needs to alter his game. And, but, I mean, he's never been a good defensive player. So,
Right.
I mean, are we using this opportunity to try to make him a complete player? Or are we just punishing this guy for whatever reason? Now, again, I want to be careful. I mean, maybe the Red Wings have justification for this. I don't know. But
yeah, you never know. That
sure seems like the perception of this. Like if I'm a guy and I'm thinking about going to the player assistance program and I see what happened to Verana,
right.
I think you'd be hesitant of that. So I just think it's a bad look. And again, I'm not saying the Red Wings are doing wrong. I had no idea. I mean,
the coup de grace to this, Kev, is they trade him for Dylan McLaughlin, who I don't know anything about, and a 7th round pick, and retain 50% of the salary, and he's got another year on the contract. So, I mean, they really they sort of wiped their hands of the situation with.
Well, yeah, well, for sure. I mean, it was clear they wanted to be rid of him when they waived him.
From the outside, Kev, it does seem like it's personal. Like something was said, and that's enough. They were like,
yeah,
no. I mean, for sure. I mean, I don't know. I don't know what the issue is, but the perception of this is just bad for the program because you want the players to feel comfortable that if they have an issue, whatever it is, that they can move forward. And I know I've seen
a talented hockey player. He is.
Well, yeah, he's a very dynamic offensive player, but it's not like everybody just discovered in the last 2 months that he's not a two-way player. I mean, I mean, everybody's known that for a long time. But this morning, like for example, I read a reader comment, and it was from someone who is a recovering addict,
right?
And that was his take on all this. He goes, I don't know anything about it. But this just stinks to high heaven that this guy was in a program. Right. And again, I don't even know what Rada's issue is. So I want to be careful. I don't know what he does. But again, the perception of it.
Yeah, right. It is.
Right.
The perception is reality. And
wonder if the NHL, not to has to quote unquote do an investigation, but given the whole purpose of the program, given that now you have Spencer Knight in that same program right now and dealing with whatever demons he's dealing with, you sort of wonder, and Russ and I, we talked about earlier, it clearly looks like they targeted him or clearly wanted to get rid of him. You would presume that the NHL has to do some kind of review or investigation to try to understand what the underlying reasons were behind the scenes, just given the optics of what happened here.
Yeah, no. I mean, optics is a good word for it. I agree, Jan. And I do think it's a little bit tricky because, even though it's the NHL Players Association, Players Assistance Program, it's really operates kind of independently, and that's the way they sort of want it. So like, there's not supposed to be any pressure from anybody. Like, you can't call if you're a team and say, well, when's my guy getting out? Like, yeah, they're not going to tell you, they're not going to give you any information about it at all. So anyway, it's just a thing, but I think Jan's right on. Someone ought to look at this and say, this is a bad look, and or at least find out what has happened here. Because I mean, Russ could be right. Maybe something that beyond what was the issue. Maybe afterward there was something. It could have been but But anyway, you just I think the players in the league need to know kind of what happened here, almost just so. They can feel comfortable if they want to enter this program because for the most part, I've heard good things about it. So
the one thing I can say that I know about the PA is like they went to great lengths to kind of redo this program too, right? Because we used to hear nothing, and then they were like, we're kind of going to give out a little information so people understand that players are going through stuff. And I do think they've handled it really well. Like in the last couple of years, where before you would just like all of a sudden the guy was gone and be like, oh, he's in the program, and that's it. Like you never hear again, you never hear anything. And I felt like the little bit that they give now is better information. I just feel like it's all been handled better. So yeah.
And then just a third take here. So I talked about Nemestikov and then Vrana is. It appears to me that Hextall really won this battle within the Penguins organization because, we've heard this morning they were working on, at least I had heard, I'm assuming you guys did too, that they were working on possibly a blockbuster deal.
Yeah.
And instead, we're just nibbling here. And now, maybe it's a good thing that he won because one of the things I said when they brought in Hextall, that maybe it was going to be just a great compromise. You bring in the ultra aggressive, blustery Brian Burke and pair him with a very conservative, draft oriented guy. Like, you can't feast on Malkin and Crosby forever. Eventually the piper needs to be paid. So you want a guy there who's maybe been stuffing some funds away in the piggy bank, or in this case, some draft capital, so that when it comes time to pay the piper, it's not going to be as ugly as it is in other places. So maybe, the idea is that, maybe Hextall can win a few battles and have a few chips.
Well, the one thing he is, Kev, he is stubborn, but sometimes you have to have a guy that's stubborn and wants to do things.
Well, I mean, the report is that Mike Sullivan, and I give him credit because he seems to understand when you're all in, you're all in. He wanted, if it's true, he wanted Chychrun. He wanted them to give up 2 first-round picks and let's go play. I like where my guys are at. You give me Chychrun, suddenly we're a better team. But Hextall goes, nah, I'm not giving up a first-round pick. So thus far, he's making changes.
This is what,
but he hasn't given them up yet.
This is what killed him in Philly. Like this, the same kind of stuff for happening. And the thing about it was that
the advanced version. He never got to this point because when he took over Pittsburgh, they were advanced compared to Philly. Like they were already a playoff team. But now he can't act like he was in Philly because they weren't going to be a playoff team. So now this is what he would have been in Philly. That's the way I look at it.
And he gave up a 2nd-round pick for a guy in Granlund who's okay, but he's making $5 million next year, right? So it's not
go tell me where else you're getting a center that could play on that team with those guys. And again, because Jeff Carter can. And
I'm not arguing.
Yeah, but Russ, the only way that deal makes sense is if Jeff Carter is retiring because you're adding.
So Russ, let me ask a question. John Gabriel Pajot is making $5 million. Is that a wise use of assets right now for Lamoriello as a 3rd-line center, making $5 million?
No, I'm saying
how much do you think?
Hextall didn't sign Granlund to that deal. He's just looking for a center, and there's not that many good centers out there. And the thing is, and I know Bonino can play center, but he can only play 4th line. If there was an injury, let's say the Penguins went around and all of a sudden there's an injury at center, what were they going to do?
Yeah, but Russ,
Russ, my point being here, though, right? If you're going to go for it, right, the Chychrun piece didn't end up costing 2-1s, as Russ was saying, right? I think the wiser course of use of the assets is getting a guy who can eat up tons of minutes on your blue line where you need it, as opposed to Granlund. I understand the battle, right? I'm just saying is they would have been better off using the assets, in my opinion, and paying more to get Chychrun, who's 24 with term remaining.
I would rather have Kulikov and Granlund for what they gave up. I don't care what they're paying them next year. I would rather have that than for Chychrun, who almost got hurt last night already.
Go ahead,
yeah, but there is, there was multiple issues here. I mean, certainly Sullivan wanted to fix his defense, and he wanted like a key performer. He didn't want to fool around the edges like they're doing with Kulikov. But he also wanted to fix his 3rd line. So I would not be shocked if he's highly on board on the Dome, because one of the things that, I'm losing my, pardon me? Granlund. Yeah. They're similar players, by the way.
Yeah.
But I've been doing too many shows this morning. But anyway,
we got you back, Kevin. All good.
Yeah. Anyway, so Granlund, what Hextall wanted was a guy with term. I don't want a rental. I want a guy that's going to play with us next year. I want a guy we can plug in on that third line. And he also wanted a guy, from what I've heard, that could slide between the lines. Granley could certainly do. So from that perspective, I think he liked it. And, we're dealing with an average salary in the NHL that's approaching $3 million. And, you're paying at least 4 or more for third line performers now.
Yeah, you are.
I'm just saying they lose Dumoulin next year, right? Who's a UFA. He may come back, right? And talk about improving the blue line.
And Zucker.
What's that? And Zucker, right? So the Chychrun salary would have easily slotted into that spot moving forward, given what he's making, and would have clearly improved their back line substantively, granted at a much higher cost. There's no question. I'm just saying, like you said, sooner or later, you got to realize, you got to talking about striking while the iron is hot, right? Crosby and Malkin, they are getting up there, but you add a guy, in my opinion, in Chychrun, to me, it improves their team much more dramatically than getting somebody like the Kulikov and the Granlund. Now, maybe I'll be wrong in the depth of the pieces will help more. I just think in terms of the talent and what he could bring to the table,
right,
them getting Chychrun would have been much more viewed as a much more significant move in terms of uplifting the talent than the adding around the edges that they've done now.
Kev,
okay. I got it. Go ahead, Mike. Go ahead.
Go ahead.
No, you can go, Chris. You go.
Jeff Merrick just tweeted out, Kev, that one player to look for in terms of forwards is Oscar Sundqvist of the Red Wings. Now, I believe his salary is in the 3.7 range, 3.75, something like that. So that would probably mean that Detroit would have to retain salary on him to fit if he's going to a team that's a contender. But, I looked at him along with guys like I thought him and Barbashev were very similar in terms of their makeup. They were both on that 2019 Blues team. I think he'd be an attractive get for a team out there.
Absolutely. He's a guy, again, his versatility, being able to slide between lines. He's comfortable in a checking role. He's comfortable in a scoring role. He's a lot more skilled. He looks awkward, but he actually can keep up. He's had multiple knee injuries, but he's kind of fought through that. Again, very popular guy, like a lovable guy, and has a real positive attitude. I have the impression that Yzerman is really appreciative of what he's kind of brought to team, even though we don't hear much from Steve, but that's the sense you get from how he's used and how they feel about him. I think Steve wouldn't mind actually having him come back, but he also is trying to collect, draft picks. So I think we all feel that he's the guy that will be moved just because he can do so much. And, he's big. You don't think about your Sundqvist, but he's big. He's a big boy. He's hard to push out in front of the net.
I know you touched on this a little bit yesterday, but there has to be a feeling right now with the Red Wings being as close as they were, say, 3 or 4 days ago, and now Verana's been traded and Hronek's been traded, and that this team is being gutted by Steve Yzerman.
It's for the first time, Steve, who walks on water in Michigan. There's people who are suggesting, maybe we shouldn't have had blind faith because they don't like all this. They don't like, Bertuzzi was popular. I mean, it was a tough scene. Here he is, and the contrast of, one day Dylan Larkin is celebrating with Steve Yzerman in his kitchen a new $8.7 million contract, and then the next day he's at the podium fighting off tears because his closest friend, Tyler Bertuzzi, was traded. But I will say this. It was pretty clear where this was headed from the beginning. We had been writing, Bob Duff and I, since the beginning of the season. Likely Larkin resigns, highly unlikely that Bertuzzi resigns. And I didn't interview his agent, but Jeff Merrick interviewed Bertuzzi's agent. He said no conversations since the beginning of the season.
Wow.
And they didn't even really get into it because when they found out what Bertuzzi was asking for, and that's one of the reasons why I thought he would never get signed. Bertuzzi saw this as an opportunity to hit the home run on a contract. He had scored 30 goals.
Yeah.
And, Yzerman, and, this is the stubborn size of Yzerman, who I think does a really good job. But,
Yeah.
he does not like to use the comparable system, which is a staple.
Exactly.
He does not, don't tell him how many goals you had and what other guys around the league are getting who scored that many goals. His question to you is always, what do you do for my team?
Well, Kev, I mean,
about Yzerman doing a master class in GMing really in the last 2 weeks. He may have pulled the rug a little early, but he's got 2 firsts in 3 seconds.
Yeah.
And a draft with an abundance of talent. That's what he's supposed to do.
Yeah, no, and I will say this, last night, once everyone got upset. I mean, the other issue here, because it doesn't happen very often, the news of Bertuzzi being traded happened while everybody was together. Larkin had not quite gotten there. They're all in, but a lot of them were in the dressing room. Bertuzzi was there. Larkin was 5 minutes out. The news came that Bertuzzi had been traded. So Larkin comes into the room now, and his best friend is gone. Bertuzzi is upset. Larkin is upset. So it was messy. But by last night, Ben Sherratt, he just said, "Look, we're pros. We get it." He said, "I have a lot of faith in Steve Yzerman," and he says a lot of guys in this room do. And he says it is a business and it's tough, but we still feel like we're headed in the right direction.
We have Anthony Mangione joining us.
I got a couple real quick things too, but go ahead, Anthony.
No, well, Ak, you go first, then I'll ask Anthony the question.
I was just texted that the Flyers in Colorado are working on JVR. That's a strong possibility. That they were talking about it a while ago, and then looked like Colorado was not going to do it, and now it looks like they might again. So that's something to follow. And then I have a couple of wild rumors to throw out for you guys. Just
Minnesota Wild rumors or wild rumors?
No, these are real wild rumors, but they are real rumors. Picked up for what it is. They are real. They are from real people. They are not from the mind of Eklund. Because if they were from the mind of Eklund, I would be too embarrassed to say them because they're really out there, but they're fun. So let's just play with it because what the heck? So that's what we do, right? So. I told you guys a little bit of it, but I got more details on it. The St. Louis Blues have had discussions. This could happen in the summer, probably will happen in the summer, with San Jose about Erik Karlsson. And the idea here would be Parayko would go in the deal, plus 2 first-round picks. The Blues have gotten a lot of first-round picks, recently. So Parayko and 2 first-round picks for Erik Karlsson. Let's just, whether or not we think that's legitimate or not, it seems kind of like a fairish trade to me. And money wise is interesting too because it does Parayko is a salary that the Blues are trying to move. Kevin, what are your thoughts on that concept?
Well, it's difficult. I mean, if I'm San Jose, the one thing that I'm concerned about that trade is you're trying to shake free from those long-term contracts. Now you're going to add Parayko that extends that out a little bit.
Yeah.
It's not 11 million, but it's still 6+.
It is 6+.
And how many years is left on that?
7.
7. Yeah. So now you're, look, I'm trying to shake free from the Karlsson. Right. I got the Burns out of there. And now you're going to say, yeah, but even after, the Karlsson money would be gone, I would have 3 more years at 6+. Now you got to have those guys if you're going to be a contending team. Yeah. So,
and Parayko is not a bad. I mean, he could be good again.
Yeah, and I'll go back to your initial statement. Like it seems realistic. Like that seems like realistic to me. Like I may not like it, but because I thought that you could, if you gave the Sharks 2 first-round picks, if you were the Edmonton Oilers, that you could, that would be enough to, get it going. You might have to give a few other pieces, but so
right. I mean, the good thing about this, like we talked about, Edmonton couldn't find a third team. You mentioned this many times, and the Parayko is essentially like getting a third team, but you're getting a salary there that is enough money to justify it.
Yeah. From the St. Louis position, it's terrific. So
well, I got one thing on this though. So Jordan Binnington after next year has an 18-team no movement clause, right? And with Carlson there, already with Falk and other guys, without Parayko, their defense is weakened. They may have the puck a little more, but this is not going to help Jordan Binnington's goaltending. And I kind of wonder, unless they could strengthen that up, what they're really doing. Because I don't think it's going to help them defensively. Yeah, it'll get them more points. And I think it would hurt Binnington. And again, they have to figure out with Binnington what they're doing because they got one more year to figure that out.
Real quick, there is someone texted me that there is I'm trying to find out more details, but that the rumor is that the Besser deal is close. Brock Besser.
Okay.
I don't know where he's going to.
Pittsburgh's been talking to them a lot.
I'm going to say
Yeah.
New Jersey is their last one.
So is Minnesota apparently, but I don't know how they make the money.
I'll
work.
say New Jersey.
But-
and the other thing is that there's JT Miller is a long shot, but somebody who was in Vancouver who I trust said it's a long shot, but he still could be moved today, which I just find hard to believe. But
Well, here's the thing about
rumor-
JT Miller. Kevin can talk to
Pittsburgh
this.
was supposedly close to getting him, and I think the deal kind of fell apart.
In the summer before they ever signed him, and they never did it. They could have moved JT Miller at the draft if they wanted to.
Yeah.
right.
Never did it. It's an inexplicable circumstance.
Just going back to St. Louis, and I want to mix Anthony in here because, okay, say that rumor is realistic, and Carlson goes to St. Louis, and Parayko is the guy as the main piece going to San Jose. Now you've got a defense with Torrey Krug, smallish, offensive-minded power play quarterback, Justin Falk, who's I think he's better defensively than Krug, but a guy who's played the power play in the past with Carolina is not exactly a giant like Parayko, who's I think 6'5", and now Carlson. You sort of like it's overkill. You've got three of the same type of defensemen, even though Carlson is 100-point guy and is going to win a Norris. You've got the same type of defense. It would make more sense if they're trading Falk or if they're trading Krug in the deal than trading Parayko.
Falk is a two-way guy.
He's more of a two-way guy than the other ones.
So
he is more of a two-way guy.
Yeah, but it's the money thing. I mean, you got to shake free from that if you're trying to, give yourself options.
And the other thing I wanted to throw at you, Kevin, is the rumor that I heard that the Sabres have made pretty big inquiries about Tom Wilson. Would that be possible in your mind?
Yep, it would. Boy, I would be shocked though if McClellan moved him. He's very valuable on so many different levels. Yeah, because of he's so intimidating as a player, and the popularity in the area. Even though they're sellers.
Yeah.
I don't know. I would be shocked. I mean, it doesn't shock me that the Bills may have called and said, because, boy, if Washington did that.
And I made the point before, Kevin, he's a Toronto area guy. And if there's one team other than Toronto that Toronto area players love to play for, it's Buffalo. And Buffalo is an up and coming team with a lot of young players. And they really do need that sort of, China shop type of player to defend some of their skill guys. So it would make a lot of sense.
Yeah, it would. It would give them. They would. They'd be a pretty brave team, I think, with Tom Wilson.
I think they'd be a pretty brave team. Here's another thing that was just noted to me. There's some issues that teams are having. Normally the trade deadline's on a Tuesday, right? And that's so with it being on a Wednesday, players traded today.
Friday.
I know it's Friday. Being that it's a Friday.
Intro and you still got it wrong.
I didn't do the intro. I know.
Thank God we didn't ask him the date.
I know. I'm not going to try. It's my son's 18th birthday. I know the date. Anyway, so all right, here we go. But here's the thing. When the visa offices, for these players to get visas, if they have to move to Canada or what have you, aren't open on the weekends.
Oh no.
So when you normally see guys that get traded, on Tuesdays and can play Wednesday and Thursday, no one's going to play till Monday if they got traded to Canada.
Yeah, because Curtis Lazar, I think, was a perfect example of that. I think he's kind of hung up at the moment. He didn't make it to New Jersey yet, I believe.
Greenway just got traded to the Sabres. I just got that text.
Oh.
Well, there's their Tom Wilson.
There's your Tom Wilson
replacement.
Exactly. That's your Tom Wilson.
Yep. Shoot, move that up for a second. That's a pretty interesting one.
So now Mike has turned into Bill Clement.
Yeah, I thought the same thing. Hey, guys, I'm going to
Not
have
in
to leave.
quadruple overtime, Mike.
Okay.
I will check back, though. I'll be back.
Sounds
Thank
good.
you.
Thanks, Kev.
You're not in quadruple overtime. You can't put it on and honestly read the story about how much smack they got from the
We
powers up
know.
on high
We know.
for doing that. They got eviscerated on. I'm like,
Okay, I don't know what the Sabres gave up, but I know I'm higher on Jordan Greenway than Russ is.
No, for the Sabres, it's fine, Mike.
Yeah.
Different. The Flyers can't afford it. They're right to the cap. The Sabres have tons of cap space. For them, it's fine. They have the luxury of being able to do it. It's a different situation.
And honestly, from a in terms of, I've had some thoughts about Greenway because of the fact, especially after the Flyers traded McEwen earlier, that perhaps that's something where they're looking to replace, having a sizable forward in their lineup. But again, from an offensive standpoint and from a speed standpoint, as Russ obviously brings up, if the Flyers need to get faster, that's not necessarily what a player that you would be looking at if you were trying to make acquisitions here.
Could this be a Middlestat trade, Russ?
no,
Wow.
per week it's supposedly only for a draft pick.
Yeah, I was going to say, if it's Middlestat,
So he hasn't.
Every
That's-
week's
that's-
reporting is for a draft pick. Don't know if there's other
That's
pieces,
a
but
fantastic move
yeah,
by
that's
the
a whole
Sabres.
fun for them.
Yeah.
It's
Now,
just an additional part. Like Anthony said, the Flyers have to get faster. He was going to slow them down, and he was going to be an additional cap hit that they really didn't need. That's the way I
he's
Well, 2 years and how many years? $3 million, Russ?
$3 million.
3 mil.
3 million.
Yeah, 2 more years
He's-
at 3 mil each year.
Yeah.
He's somebody who fills in for Alex Tuck while Tuck is injured.
Sure.
Yeah, I think that's a fantastic move for Kevin Adams and the Sabres.
Yeah. Again, more people telling me that Besser's
more
getting
years.
close.
Two
I
more
still-
years.
We do have to do one thing. I think from the time Kevin Adams was hired to now, we do have to give him
Yes.
a lot of plaudits. He's done a very nice job.
Yes.
I think he's done a better job than we all thought maybe he could even do.
Yes.
He's really
But
worked
So
well.
I wonder if this means though that that
This means
Nyquist maybe.
Besser. I'll bet you anything
I
means
wonder if-
Besser.
I know if this means that Nyquist may be back a bit earlier than we expected, also because right now they got him on LTIR.
Yeah,
Right,
he
they can
said he
bring
was
him
gonna be
back.
early.
We'll
Yeah.
see.
He faces 2.75 mil. He
Mhm.
kind of fills the slot that Greenway was taking. And we know Minnesota's in pretty much cap hell right these days, given their contracts that they had to eat.
Yep. Yeah, I'm hearing. It looks like Minnesota with Besser is the way this is going. But I'm just trying to.
Hey, look, Minnesota did well though. I mean, they got a second-round pick in this draft. Like they're not getting thrown around. So good for them.
It's either Minnesota or Pittsburgh. It looks like.
So supposedly the Sabres are sending a 2023 second and a 2024 fifth rounder for Greenway.
Yeah,
wow.
this is a big deal. That's a really good pick for them.
That's a substantial. This is why they were saying that they weren't being, blown away with the trade offers. And
Right.
somebody came in late here with an offer in this draft. Second
Oh, yeah.
round pick is all his borderline gold.
Now, I get why Minnesota trade. He had 27 points in 62 games last year. Was a plus 26. The most he's ever scored is 12 goals. But he's 6'6" and 230 pounds. He's a
Sure.
big, bruising winger. He's having a bad year this year, and that's why they're bailing on him because he's got 2 years left at $3 million. But I think fitting into the dynamic that the Sabres have right now. Now you've got a big, even though he's not a tough player, a big, lanky star in Tage Thompson. Dylan Cousins is a bigger player who plays with sort of sharp elbows. Alex Tuck is like that. But they're essentially a skilled team, and they do get pushed around every once in a while. So having Greenway there as the sheriff makes a lot of sense.
Yeah,
And Buffalo
I
has
don't
3
think
second
Guerin
round
would.
picks this year, so they can afford to move one of them
Right.
in a deal.
I don't believe Guerin would have traded Greenway unless he had something else coming in.
Yeah, I agree.
But that's where
Yep.
it could be Besser. You might be right.
Yeah, I mean, I
Or,
think
or,
Besser's-
or a possibility again, they might wheel back to JVR depending on what the contract would offer. But that to be a third team probably being involved in that to make.
Yeah, and I don't get from just people I talked to, Guerin was not super high on JVR.
I think right.
I think Colorado is a much better chance.
Yeah, Vegas, Colorado, Seattle.
The problem with JVR, he's everybody's third or fourth choice. That's what the problem is.
Well,
Yeah,
Seattle's
According to
getting
Drager,
third or fourth
Detroit
choice.
and Seattle are both in on JVR also potentially.
Detroit? That makes no
That's
sense.
what he's.
Yeah, that's not.
I agree.
That's not happening.
No, Darren usually.
That
Darren's
sounds like a
not.
lot.
I'm not saying it just doesn't make any sense.
It doesn't
Yeah.
make sense, but he's
Oh no, we're not saying
We should drum up the market a little bit more to see if somebody can squeeze just a little bit more.
right. We're not saying
Agents in there.
that's what I think.
this
Agents
feels like
been
the
there to
kind of
try to
thing
build
that
up a marketplace for him.
maybe. I mean, yeah, you're right. I think that's very possible, Jan. Like, this feels like the kind of thing that JVR doesn't get moved. Like, it feels like that the way this whole thing has always played out. It feels like the kind of thing that it just doesn't happen.
Well, Eck, I have a soundbite, and I will be using it on another show. JVR, when he gave his interview the other day about getting traded, did say midway, it's possible I could still be here on Saturday, and he laughed. And so
Now it's Sunquist of the Wild is here.
Sunquist of the Wild.
right.
There you go. There's the money
There
in,
we go.
money out.
Yeah.
Sunquist was making 3.75. Greenway was making 3. So
Yeah, but it's Sunquist the UFA.
yes,
Yeah, that's why. That's why he did it. He got out of a year of Greenway, so that's smart for
2
him.
years.
2 years of Greenway.
Yeah, so that was smart.
Yep.
So does this mean Besser to Penguin to Pittsburgh?
I don't think so.
I mean, Besser in the summer.
Yeah, I don't think they have enough. They're going to have to do a lot cap-wise. I mean, I could see Colorado for Besser. I don't know why that's not getting talked about.
Good point.
Maybe.
That would be.
And by the way, everybody's talking about that Colorado needs a second line center. Do me a favor, take a look at what JT Compher has done this year.
I agree.
The
I'm
guy's
not in
been
that boat.
phenomenal this year, and
I know.
his production has been off the charts for the last
Everybody's
month
been
and a half.
saying it. I like Comfort. I'm with you.
Yeah. Anthony,
Yeah.
can we talk about the Brendan Lemieux for the monster Brendan Lemieux for Zach McEwen deal?
Well, in reality, for me, when I'm looking at that trade after it occurred and heard that there was a 5th round pick in 2024 involved in the
Right.
deal. To me, that is the value part of the deal for Philadelphia. If you're getting anything in this circumstance, if you're shit. Now, if they have other plans, that's interesting. But again, Brendan Lemieux is going to be a UFA this offseason. It's also another way for Philadelphia to keep certain younger players on the Phantoms for their playoff run. Tortorella has spoken a lot with regards to having those younger players playing down on the Phantoms that have the experience of a playoff run. So basically, Lemieux, in my mind, is basically filling a roster spot for Philadelphia, and maybe gets a little bit of an opportunity here that if he can play any amount of disciplined hockey, which is always questionable when it comes to Brendan Lemieux, that maybe a team snips around him, this summer. But I don't see this as anything more than basically.
Yeah, I agree with you.
That LA wanted to move off in order to get a player like to add a player like McEwen.
There is one other thing with this. I mean, we're all probably getting messages. There may not be a lot of fans in the Flyers locker room with Brendan Lemieux either.
No, I mean, listen, we know that this acquisition, you have the one person that Lemieux's going to know is Tony DeAngelo, because of their time together with the Rangers, doing that podcast together with one another. But, you have a guy in Lemieux who, again, if the Flyers are bringing in a player here that has issues all the time when it comes to discipline in his play. And I'm sure, this, again, to me, this is a roster filler type of thing here to ensure that they don't have to bring up certain younger players for longer stretches than they have to.
Just one note on the Greenway deal, which 3 guesses who coached Jordan Greenway in the under 18s.
Granato.
Don Granato.
Yep.
There you go.
Well, there's always connections.
Yeah, no, definitely, and no, that's a great point. The Flyers, despite being the Broad Street Bullies and everybody thinking that they're this rough and tumble team, have a history of getting guys like Brendan Lemieux and it not working at all. Like that, they really have you can go back to just a whole bunch of them that they've tried to get that are the Sean Avery type player or whatever doesn't work in Philly. It never has, and you would think it would maybe, but it just doesn't. We'll see. I mean, I don't mean to shoot the guy down for it.
Philly.
Honestly, I'm not evaluating this trade on pretty much anything other than the thought. This is a case where I really do believe this is a roster filler trade. That's how I view this for Philadelphia.
Right.
And if he gives them anything, then that's a bonus. but I don't think it's. I honestly don't believe and don't evaluate it anything more than that. To me, the 5th round pick to Philadelphia might have a little bit more value going forward than Brendan Lemieux will.
Yeah, the chat room tells us that Nick Aube-Kubel got a 1-year extension
He
with
did get an
Washington.
extension with the Capitals, yeah.
And that's good. I
Posted
mean,
it
you know
in the
what?
chat.
They picked him up off of waivers from Toronto, and he
He's done okay.
He's a very serviceable player. Like on
He checks hard. He plays hard minutes.
he does, and he was very good on Colorado. Like he's good if you're not expecting too much of him. Like he's a good 4th line guy.
He just ran into the wrath of Alain Vigneault. That was the problem.
Yeah, and probably trying to make more of him than he was because the Flyers didn't have the kind of talent.
Correct.
Because that's never happened. Anybody running into the wrath of Alain Vigneault.
Yeah.
No, of course not.
Yeah.
That shell defense played in the 3rd period all the time. Good job,
Listen,
AB.
Alain's still getting paid. He could be on an island somewhere sipping margaritas.
Hopefully he is.
Yeah.
Martinis, Russ.
That's
Martinis.
true. It's Martini. You're right.
Right.
Old fashions. Come on, old
No, he's
fashions.
a Martini guy. I forgot.
Will the Calgary Flames do anything at all? That's a big question. Like that's going on right now. They got texted that from a couple people.
There was a lot of chatter about them, especially had they lost, which they did to Toronto last night, that they would be sellers along the lines of Nashville and Washington. The names that were coming out were Lindholm and Backlund, all guys with like 1 year left in their contracts, but we're 34 minutes away from the deadline and nary a peep out of Brad for a living.
I mean,
nothing at all.
Heck, I heard they're taking offers on Harvey the Hound. I did.
And they've got some players.
That's not nice.
They've got players though that you might want.
Isn't Harvey's head still floating in the Saddle Dome? I remember the flooding and the.
No, but honestly, they should have put out the word this morning that they're selling because they're not making anything. They're not making the playoffs.
Right.
They look horrible. Sutter's at his wit's end. He already, said that all the heat's on Markstrom, and Markstrom lost his last game.
Markstrom played really well last night, Russ.
But they lost.
It wasn't his fault.
No, I get it. But they still lost, right? So it's like, where are they really going? They should be selling. They should.
And by the way, just to clarity, Paz, the 2nd round pick that's going in the Greenway pick is the pick that Buffalo got in the Eichel deal from Vegas. So clear, it's the latter of picks in that round, given where they are.
Even if it's like 50th, I'll take.
No,
it.
what I'm saying is obviously they're going to give them being a later pick is a good thing.
No, I get it.
Minor trade involving the Leafs. They've traded Dryden Hunt, former Ranger, former Avalanche, to the Calgary Flames.
There you go. Calgary made a deal.
They made a deal.
I was just about if I had a second to talk with you jerks, because you guys are all like so hard to get in word and edgewise. If I had a second to talk, I was going to tell you that I just heard Toronto's about to do something. So there you go. I didn't get a chance to say that, but yep. Toronto.
Is that jerk's comment really necessary? Seriously?
I had no sleep last night. I apologize, Dan. It was not necessary at all. And you guys
have to make some coffee.
I had a toilet explode on me at 2 a.m. I was up till 5 with it. It was fun. It's a fun night.
Where's the take a boost?
Oh, I got my tea, man. I didn't get to ring my bell yet either, so. Anyway, all right. So, so Toronto makes a move, and Toronto and Calgary teaming up, right?
Well, okay, Toronto. First of all, his salary was buried. I think he was 750,000 or 775, something like that. But now they open up a contract slot. Now they're at 48 contracts. There's definitely, when Matthew Nyes is over, his season is over with at Minnesota, they sign. But this could mean they're going to make a move to add something before the deadline. Dryden Hunt played a few games for them. Didn't play badly. $762,500 salary cap. So salary hit. So.
The Minnesota Wild are still in on Brock Besser, just because they got Sundqvist, which is surprising, but that's the case. Now the price for Brock Besser is very, very high, and so I don't. At least that's that's what we've been told. But maybe maybe it's not. Like we were told that with Chikrin, so who knows? Maybe it's not. Maybe it's maybe you have to just be able to say the Big Mac theme or something like that. Maybe it's something just that we don't understand. But yeah, price on Besser is high. Can you guys do it? Can you do the Big Mac theme? Can you do the Big Mac thing?
No.
2 all beef patty, special sauce, lettuce, cheese, pickles, onions.
I didn't want to.
You can't do that? Oh, come on, guys.
Special sauce is disgusting.
not saying it's good.
It's gross.
I'm gonna take all your words on it. So
When we were kids, you got a free French fries if you said that in McDonald's. That was a big deal.
You know what? Honestly, I like the Quarter Pounder better than I like the Big Mac.
Nah.
The Big Mac was a gimmick. It was.
Yeah, the Big Mac sounds great, but when you have one, you really feel bad afterwards. Like
You do.
you don't feel good after a Big Mac.
Oh,
Like I had one recently. So I'm like, oh man, I gotta have a Big Mac.
Right.
I had both of them in one night.
A Big Mac and a Quarter Pounder.
And they felt terrible the next morning.
That's what
did
you
the
call
two
it.
of them like
Cheek to Wagga
counteract each
crawl.
other, so you felt okay after having the two
Yeah,
combined?
but the benefit of having both of them is I don't know which one made me feel bad.
See,
You don't know which one to avoid in the future is the bigger problem, though, Mike.
Mike, is that what they call the cheek to Wagga crawl? When you
Tony
go,
Soprano finally put something good in the chat room. He goes, he's making baked ziti, and Mike and Russ and Jan are invited. I would come over for baked ziti.
There
oh
you
man, I
go.
would go anywhere. I thought it would be so boring. I put my arcade
Don't you
machine back
remember the line from the first Sopranos episode? No bleeping ziti.
Yeah.
Yeah, I haven't eaten yet. It's interesting.
Yeah, you can
We
order.
never ordered lunch.
You can order from Domino's.
we're gonna have a cheesesteak.
A minor deal here between the Sabres and the Anaheim Ducks. Austin Strand for Chase Prisky.
All right.
Yeah, those are guys.
The former Panther, Chase Prisky.
Yeah. Prisky, I had hopes, but he's a little bit older now. He's out of college, and I don't think he's going to be anything.
No.
Depth guy, AHL guy. But he's
So
really
here's my
good
question to you:
college.
Are we a little surprised that Carolina has not done anything yet using the LTIR
I'm
money
worried
that
about
they have?
Carolina. I may change my pick of them coming out of the East.
Unless they think that the moves for Augusta Spear and Puljujärvi are enough.
It's not enough.
I know it's not enough, but unless they
It might be. I mean,
I'll
like,
find out right now and tell them it's not enough.
it might be. I mean, the reality here is
a
this
nice
guy's like
third line guy to play with Chatfield, who's been very good this year. Puljujärvi, who the heck knows? Look, he's good defensively, offensively. If you can't score when playing with McDavid and Draisaitl, as much as I love Sebastian Aho and those guys, I'm not quite sure if he's scoring with those guys either.
Yeah, that's the whole thing. I think he's a depth guy in the end. I think they try him out, and he ends up being an extra guy. I don't know if he's even going to fit in. Just to answer Ogie, I had Pancheros already, so I can't order.
yeah.
I'm going to.
There's Anna was part of the trade deadline this morning when I tweeted out.
I know. I saw that Anna's head was much bigger than yours, Russ. No, but
She was on my lap.
I know. I'm going to that very secret wing place that shall not be mentioned, Russ. Do not mention it.
Yeah.
Shall not be mentioned again, you mean?
Yes, like you've only mentioned like 5,000 times, but
Is this where you go after every trade deadline?
no. Usually I order in, but tonight I'm making.
But Jordan Greenway will be at the other place, Mike, at the Anchor Bar. Actually, just to give a plug here, Mike.
This place is murder.
This is for you. They have that series, The Food That Built America. They are doing wings this week, so you should watch it. I'll be curious because growing up on the island, and Jan could attest to this, I had no idea what hot wings were. They did not exist on Long Island. However, my brother went to UB, and when I went up there to visit them, that's when I first sampled them. Now, of course, they were Anchor Bar back in the day. Hold on, Mike.
Yeah.
But the point was, like, this was something new and exciting in the 80s that apparently has been around for so much longer. So my big question for you, Mike, is why did it – this is the same state, Buffalo, Long Island. Why did it take so long for hot wings to make its way down to, like, a place like Long Island, which really didn't happen probably until the mid-'80s? I
mean, I think you're right in the sense that the college people going to Western New York from Long Island brought that back.
Yeah.
And that's sort of and to New York. And then, as you know, everything that goes to New York spreads out all over the place.
Right,
so
right.
I think, but the funny thing is it really hasn't like exploded until I would say probably the turn of the century. Like throughout the rest of the country. Plus, I think another contributing factor is that a lot of people moved out of Buffalo, and you've got a lot of like Buffalo bars in like Charleston, South Carolina, and Savannah, Georgia, and Dallas, and Houston. Like the Buffalo people moving out and then starting Buffalo bars and then making Buffalo wings has spread out that thing around the country.
Well, I mean, first of all, Russ, I didn't grow up on Long Island, so I'm a Jersey boy originally. So
Oh, you're Jersey. Okay.
I'm a Jersey boy originally, yes.
Okay.
The Sabres got Strand.
Yeah, no, we
Yeah, we
You
said
mentioned that
that.
already. Okay, that was something.
Yeah, my wife apologizes that you grew up in Jersey.
Russ, there's somebody who wants to meet you, by the way.
Okay.
Take
come
Jersey
in
out of
a
the
second.
board. You can't take the
I
board.
mean, I live in New Jersey. I've lived here for 20-something years, so
Yeah.
South Jersey.
Yeah.
Though.
No, I've lived in Pennsylvania now for 20 some years. It's pretty crazy.
And you grew up in South Jersey.
I grew up in
so-
South Jersey. Yeah, I still feel I still think of my wife and I still think of ourselves as South Jersey kids. But our kids, you know, my daughter's 20. She's a Pennsylvania all the way.
Right.
It's crazy. Yeah. So Yeah.
So
So
who are we talking about?
oh yeah, no, he's gonna come over in a second. I think.
Okay.
Radim Horna is the return for Dryden Hunt.
Dryden. Okay. Yeah.
so it's contract for contract. Okay.
Yeah.
Rhythms of
Again, Calgary. The only thing Calgary has as an asset, if they want to trade UFA wise, is Milan Lucic. So
Yeah. I know. Right. Is that
Question
and that?
is, who's more likely to get dealt? James
That's an
Anderson
untradeable
or
thing, isn't it,
Lucic?
Russ? Come on.
right.
Can you imagine someone trading for Milan Lucic? So Russ, that's, here's your buddy.
What's Trevor Lewis?
So come on up. Yeah,
Up.
here he is.
There you go.
It's Russ the chicken.
I remember him.
Yeah, here he is. He's a famous YouTube star. Like they get more views than we get by a lot.
Well, I'm responsible for Russ the Chicken.
You
so
are.
I should-
Russ the chicken came to being because you couldn't do a prediction one time and we brought him on instead.
Right.
So apparently, Mike and Jan are boycotting you.
Why?
I don't know. I don't get it.
This seems chickenist.
Yeah, it's chickenist. I agree.
Trust me, Mike eats a lot of chicken. I've sat next to him.
How dare they?
Thanks for stopping by.
No problem.
See you later. All right. There you go. Yeah. So that was Russ the chicken, kids. And Mike.
Mike is the chicken now.
We are in the filler portion of our show right now. Thanks for joining, everybody.
All right, here we go.
Listen, this is the way it goes. I mean, TS can afford Bruce Boudreau, and we get Russ the Chicken.
That's exactly right.
I'm going to read number 98 from my book here.
I'm going to play Exevius.
Wait a minute. Page 98 for your book, is that like out of like epistles or something like that?
No, out of the 100 things, I'm going to read the 98th thing that Ranger fans should do before they die.
Okay, which is what? Trade for Patrick Kane?
Yeah.
Right. There you go.
Russ is good. He's just not that much of a forecaster when the book came out.
All right, let's see. I'm going to
I
check
can
Jan.
break trade rumors and play Miss Pac-Man left-handed. All right, ready?
Jan, what is interesting about this figure here?
I can't see it clear enough. So is that a McFarlane?
It's a McFarlane and it's a Mark Messier, but there's a specific reason.
What?
But you should know. It doesn't matter. It doesn't. Either you know or you don't.
All right.
It's actually on the label, Jan. If you could almost
It's on the
read it.
label.
No, I'm
Authorized
not
by
going to
the
show it to you. Look at the jersey closely.
Yeah. It's
It's
got
an
ties on it
NHL
on the top.
No, it's an NHLPA logo. They
Okay.
didn't have it. This is before
They didn't have the
had
NHL
it.
contract, so they
I
just
can't even read it now because I'm on
JVR to
Gold.
Detroit is done. Oh my gosh.
JVR to Detroit?
Why?
Okay. All right, let me go check. Be right
It's
back.
done.
Well, the Flyers haven't texted me yet. But
Yeah.
here's the thing. So, yeah, when McClellan made those figures, they didn't have a deal with the NHL. So it actually says on the label that it's not NHL approved. So, like, instead of the Ranger logo, it's the NHLPA logo.
Mike, you chose to get changed when Russ the Chicken made his appearance.
I needed a bathroom break. Sorry, I didn't. Mean
Okay,
to.
glad Russ the Chicken could be here then.
Yeah.
Yeah,
It was messy. It was messy enough with Russ the Chicken, and me having to go to the bathroom just made it.
JVR is a Red Wing.
That's asinine. I mean, really doesn't.
What
make any
is
sense.
going on here? Why would this happen? Why would they do this?
Either they're gonna flip them somewhere.
They're going to flip them.
Yeah.
Yeah, they might. That's a good point.
You know, they could filter them through a third team, but you'd think that they would announce that. I mean, we only
Yeah.
have 21 minutes. If they get stuck with him,
Well, it's pending a physical. It said.
Well, because they said
Hurt.
two games ago he was banged up.
So
And
I mean,
in
they
the
can't
last game, he
flip
looked
them because
fine.
they don't have this trade doesn't even happen until they get a physical.
Right. he played last game. After the game, he said he was 100%. Like the day that we asked him about the trade deadline, he said he was 100%. So it's just a formality.
Yeah. Okay.
But I think they're going to flip him, though. I don't. Again, he's a UFA. Unless they really want to keep him for next year, which I doubt.
Yeah.
I think they're flipping him.
Is this? Yeah. I mean, that's really weird.
Very strange.
It's a very strange thing. I wish we had Kevin to understand this to tell us what is happening here, because this is very. I mean, no one really saw this coming at all until like very recently, and I think you might be right, Russ. I think they might be flipping him.
Yeah, it's just
Seattle, maybe.
Yeah, I think Seattle. I do, and it does make you wonder why it's going to happen this way instead of Fletcher doing it directly. I guess we're going to find out based on
maybe
this
they couldn't
pick.
agree on players, and one obviously beauty's in the eye of the beholder.
Yeah.
Right? Maybe there's somebody who Detroit may like that Philly doesn't like.
Maybe
He's a beautiful man, though, Jan. I mean,
yeah, he's a
JVR.
good-looking guy. I mean,
JVR is a very good-looking guy.
here's the way I would say it.
Didn't necessarily mean from a physical presence, but okay, we can go with that.
I can't.
You said beauty isn't about an eye of the beholder. I'm just saying.
Right, in terms of player value.
Yeah. Yeah. Okay. Yeah, no, I'm with you. I think that they have to be flipping him.
Yeah, I think that's the case. I honestly, I think it's probably a situation where the Flyers couldn't get these 2 picks that they wanted. So Detroit has a bevy of picks. They gave them something the Flyers would accept, and then Detroit will probably get a higher return. That's really what I'm expecting here.
I'm expecting that too. I think that I don't. But this is late in the game to pull this off. For like you said, unless Eisman already has it done,
You might already have something lined up.
Mhm.
Or both deals are
I'll give you the
pending
one. I'll give
physicals,
you
right?
the team. Ready?
They'll
Dallas.
both be pending physicals.
Line that up with Jim Nill in 10 minutes.
Yeah, could be. I could see that. I mean, Dallas getting Domi certainly helped, in my opinion.
Yeah.
Yeah. There's absolutely no reason for Detroit.
Okay, Ross. Now I understand the reason why the Leafs made that deal. Radim Zohorna is on an AHL contract. He does not have an NHL deal, so they opened up
Another contract.
another contract space. And they help the Marlies because he's a
They need
veteran.
one contract for Matthew Nyes, and they might need it for somebody else who's a free agent
Right, exactly.
in August.
Yeah.
According to Dreger,
or it's an NCAA prospect who's undrafted who they want to sign. Yeah, go ahead. I'm sorry, Jay.
according to Dreger, that JVR is likely heading to Detroit. Deal isn't done as Red Wings are in the process of moving another player.
So he's a placeholder then.
Yeah. Well, okay, so then you know what it is? I saw Adam Ernie got called up. I bet you they're done with Adam Ernie at this point.
Okay.
Yeah, but Adam Ernie is part of that Tampa Bay Mafia.
Yeah, it doesn't matter. I think it just makes sense. He could fill the
Well,
hole.
okay, I'll give you one name that's possible because I heard it yesterday. Pia Suter is a expiring contract.
Okay. That's possible.
Maybe they're moving him, and he's a center too. Maybe.
Yeah. Suter makes sense. Zadina doesn't make sense, Danby. Not in this kind of deal.
No, maybe in this.
You talked about Dallas, right? Where does he fit, JBR? Because you brought in Domi, you brought in Donanoff. Where does he kind of fit there, though?
I mean,
Like,
I don't know.
He doesn't fit in Dallas.
I think
Right.
it's Seattle. I mean, Seattle hasn't done anything really when you think about it,
No, Seattle hasn't done anything.
and which is really surprising in a lot of
It
ways
was
because I mean
reported-
they have
I
a
mean,
chance here.
Yeah.
I mean, they
Well, they
could
locked
fall
into
out of
Eli Tolvanen basically because Nashville gave up on him.
Right. They could fall out of the playoffs. I mean, they're really in a dangerous spot right now. They're really close to falling out of the playoffs. And that would be very disappointing based on the season they've had. You know, they've been in first place in that division most of the year. But I don't know what's going to geez.
Scratch that. Zohorna signed a contract in the middle of the year, so
We've got 15 minutes.
yeah,
And
he
Sarah
does that.
Valley's reporting that there's no deal in place for JVR. So
Who said that?
Sarah Valley.
Yeah, that makes more sense.
Well, he just ruined all the fun now. Thanks, Frank.
Yeah, I don't I don't get that there would ever be a deal.
It doesn't make a ton of sense.
There's only a deal. This is what this sounds like, and Frank's, not really telling the whole thing here. This sounds like it was part of another deal, but it didn't. But the other deal didn't happen.
But that fell through. I think you're right. I think you're right.
I mean, and that happens all the time. We just usually don't hear about parts of the deal, but perhaps I don't know why they I don't. That really sounds like that. I mean, I think if they're gonna do it, they're gonna be flipping them.
But I will give you a name from Dallas. Like, they could move out Radek Faksa. I mean, he's been a disappointment.
Well, they moved Gurionov, so
Faksa's got 2 more years at 3.2. That's not really helping them.
Yeah, that's true.
Yeah,
15-minute warning.
Yeah, I know.
Well, we know we're gonna get that flurry.
My Philly source says that they actually kind of laughed at the JVR thing.
At the report.
Yeah. I mean, I do think that there's something there for it to get out like that with all those people saying it.
I'm gonna just take a look at my Flyers right now and see what I can find in there.
Yeah. But I don't know. Yeah, I'm not sure what's happening there. Don't ever do that again.
Free advertising. We have 415 people in our watching the show. Hey, folks.
It'll be a lot.
I know.
I'm drinking Coke.
For sure. I'm trying my best to I'm frantically texting people here. Sorry,
No, that's okay. No,
my butt hurts. All right.
What?
That's good.
I've been sitting too long.
Ah, okay. Well, get a more comfy chair.
I know. Do you see what I'm sitting into?
Younger guys on this panel, like if you're gonna fall apart, we're in trouble.
Did you see the chair I'm sitting on? It's kind of cool. It's kind of cool.
Yeah, Granola Vlad just tweeted out JVR to the Red Wings, not a done deal. Red Wings need
that's the
another
chair. You have a pad on that
before. Yeah, isn't it cool though? It's it's got these are
goalie
arm things. And,
so Anthony, we thought there was a JVR deal to Detroit, and now
there's still physicals. There's still physicals pending, and also there may be other things involved in terms of other partners. They may be because they always said with regards to making this trade, there would need potentially a third team to be involved. So the deal is not done yet. So the feeling is though that at least based on what I'm reading here is that it's likely to happen, but things fall. As you well know, things happen.
Yeah, and I actually the person I talked to at the Flyers, who I really trust, doesn't think it's going to happen. They said we tried to work on it, but they don't think it's going to. They think it's but we'll see. But what? And if it doesn't happen now, is it because of that it's 3:00? And if that's the case, then this is absolutely ridiculous. This is not the kind of trade that should have gone at 3:00. Again,
you
why?
needed to work this out days ago.
Yeah, why? This is not the biggest deal in the world. But
what it comes down to is that when as Russ and we've all discussed, JVR isn't the primary or one of the main. He's option at this point now. He's option C, option D, but now he's moved up to option B.
CJ just tweeted JVR is not getting traded to the Red Wings.
He's not getting traded.
Okay.
The rumors of JVR's trade are greatly exaggerated.
So now Kevin Allen doesn't.
So his era in Detroit's going to last shorter than Jonathan Quick's era in Columbus.
Yeah.
And again, now all of a sudden this isn't with Elliott making the initial tweet saying it doesn't look great.
So JVR remains at the top of the TSN trade report.
Anna just came in and told me that he's not getting traded.
Yeah.
Anna would know. Anna's gonna know.
That's an A5. That's an A5, right, Russ?
Yeah.
Anna 5.
Yes, that's what she was saying. She knows. She's got that sixth sense, as you know.
Yeah. Jesus Christ. Now, okay. No, never mind. I'm not going to say that. Nope.
No, good idea, Mike.
Somebody jokingly said to me that the way this Flyers
just go on mute, Mike. Just go on mute.
I really like this text that someone says to me. It's actually a tweet. Someone replied me, and they said the way this Flyers season is gone, the Flyers would trade JVR to Detroit for a 4th round pick, and they would turn around and trade JVR to Seattle for a 3rd-round pick.
That's what I was saying. That's what I was expecting.
The Flyers would be able to make that direct trade, which is like absolutely absurd.
No, Tom, I said Adam Ernie on the move. I just figured if they called him up, maybe that's some guy that they would move out. I think at some point he's not going to fit in anymore, but that's just me.
Something happened with JVR in Detroit, pulled back from the deal.
For Friedman, yep.
For Elliot Friedman.
Yeah.
It's a good look for you, Mike. We like it better.
Wow. Yeah, no. It doesn't make a lot of sense. They're dumping. Why would unless they were filtering him?
I think they were filtering. I think
They were filtering him to get him to another team. That was possible. And then something happened there. That makes a lot of sense.
Yeah, Detroit had to be the
So
team that was taking. Detroit was the team that was taking on
Question
money in the
also.
thing, right?
I'm telling you, the easiest
That
team
makes
for them to filter with would be Dallas, though. It would.
Yes, perhaps.
Yeah, but I think that I just think Seattle hasn't done anything, and I think that that's what's weird about it. Like to me,
They got
Ron Francis is legendarily doesn't do a lot, right? Like
no.
he is.
They got a defenseman like what 3 weeks ago.
Yeah. When he was with Carolina, I didn't even have to follow. I didn't even have to cover them. Like they were just like they were not going to do anything on the trade rumor. Rumor deadline stuff.
And
They do a lot more now.
I will say I'm surprised the Hurricanes haven't done anything else last minute. I'm surprised.
Yeah,
I've been saying this for a while. I mean, look,
that-
they got Pujols. They ended up getting Gostisbehere, which is fine, but they're sitting on a boat ton of cap room
I know.
based
That's my
upon
point.
Pacioretty being on LTIR, which we all figured that Timo Meier was the guy they were going to use it for.
we have 4 playoff teams that all real 3 that definitely needed to get a goalie that didn't, and then 1 that could have gotten a goalie.
Nope.
Yeah, I just look at Carolina and say they wasted their cap space. They could have monetized that if they wanted to.
Yeah. Interesting.
I know it's easy for me to say, but whatever.
I'm just glad that that it's Elliot Friedman backtracking and not me.
There you go.
I hate that. There's nothing worse than that feeling. I feel for Elliot. Like when you're told something happens and you're like, okay,
Yeah.
Russ
done,
with his Schadenfreude moment.
yeah, it's not. And then people, Twitter will be completely understanding about this. People will be completely understanding and happy about it. They'll be like, oh yeah, we understand, Elliot. That's fine. Because I've been in that boat plenty of times, Meanwhile, my DoorDash is approaching. That's pretty exciting.
What order for lunch?
I'm getting Chick-fil-A.
Ah,
Yep. Chick-fil-A is approaching. Nothing against Russ the chicken. Sorry.
I
We're
was
getting
gonna say, you have the
Chick-fil-A.
chicken in your house. You could have just made it for yourself.
I know I have a chicken, but it's a different kind of chicken.
yeah.
Well,
it's
Russ, the
really-
chicken's gonna see Chick-fil-A and he's gonna look at you with like all kinds like, what's going
He's
on?
gonna
here?
freak out. I know.
it's holy chicken.
He's gonna freak out. Yeah. It's right-wing chicken, Mike. Okay, so
Oh, don't go there.
I said it's holy chicken.
I know.
holy chicken.
No, that's not what he said.
They're closed on Sundays.
So,
Oh
Russ,
my
here's my
God.
question for you. One of the things I wrote in my column: if Mott goes on LTIR, and we talked about the names earlier, right? Obviously, I forgot Ryan Carpenter's there, Brodzinski, Will Coyle. If they were going to trade for somebody, the 3 guys I saw that were possibly available for a cheap contract: Derek Grant, Christian Fischer, and Mark Jankowski. Any one of the 3 better than options in the Rangers have already to promote from the minors to fill that 4th line role?
Yeah, I think Jankowski is because Jankowski has offensive ability. He can play tough. He's got size. So he's like a more advanced Cooley. Cooley could turn into Jankowski, but he's not there yet. So Jankowski could be a boost for them. He's a decent player, like he is, and he's not old. And you know what? That wouldn't be bad because, again, the worst part, what the Rangers saw last night, was them getting pushed around. And now they are light in that area. They went heavy in that area. Now they took away a lot of it, and they kind of need a little more, Jan.
Trade for Ryan Reeves.
Yeah.
Shut up. Jankowski's at only $750K, which is why I kind of brought him up, right?
Yeah.
if you got somebody to eat 50% of the salary, it still might leave you some flexibility down the road if you needed
8
it.
points on the year. I mean, again,
He's not even a point; it's just more of a fourth line.
yeah.
And
guy that fills the role.
ironically, if you were looking for toughness, one of the guys you might have wanted to trade for would have been Austin Watson. I mean but Ottawa pulled him back when
He's got playoff experience. So I mean,
he's got playoff experience.
He's
Yeah,
a very homely looking man.
that's
So
a big deal.
you better watch Jack. He's going to come after you.
no, I mean I know him. I mean,
You're
I
talking
met
about
him.
Austin Watson, you mean?
I met him in Nashville. He's a good guy, but man, he was better looking back then. Man, he really
looks like a pirate. He's got
he
like a
looks beat
scar
up now.
under his eye.
Yeah, definitely. He looked beat up when he got kicked out of the game last night, and it was funny just to see him skate over, and he literally said to the referee, "Yeah, I deserve that." I heard him say, you can read his lips, and he said that.
Well, I'm glad he felt he deserved it. The Department of Player Safety didn't think he deserved anything else, which is an absolute.
I will tell you,
farce.
Michael Jello didn't think that was going to happen, but I told the chat room he was going to be kicked out of that game. I did.
No, I thought he was.
You did? Okay, I thought you were.
Yeah,
saying
no, I said when I saw the elbow to the jaw of Amat, I'm like, that's legitimate. 5 minute in a game.
It is inexplicable how they didn't find him.
We have another possible trade: Troy Stetcher to Calgary from Arizona.
Okay.
Why is Calgary adding players? What is wrong?
Well, we said
with them?
Calgary wasn't doing anything, so they basically said we need to do something. So they're doing something.
Well,
Rust the Chicken is delivering me my Chick-fil-A. Hey, I'm sorry. Okay. I know. Sorry about that, man.
Under duress, no doubt. That's funny.
Wow.
No, but I don't understand. I have to admit, I'm finally at a point where I don't understand Calgary. Like, are they still? They're going to still act like they're in it because they're only 5 points out. Like that's going to be their.
Well, Russ, they're not giving up any here. Okay, they got Dryden Hunt who can play fourth line for them. They gave up a minor leaguer in Zahorna. Now they're getting a 5, 6, 7 defenseman in Stetcher, and I'll bet you anything they're giving up nothing, like a low round pick or mid round pick.
Right, but they're just giving away draft capital for no chance. They have no chance. None.
They have no chance. It's very little chance, but yeah, this is Brad Chaleur.
Maybe a 7th rounder for all we know. I mean, that's not like
Right,
they're giving up a ton.
That's not draft capital. That's draft capital.
Thank you very much. Okay, thank you.
So, yeah, we'll see what the return is for Stetcher. I would think it's nothing of major consequence.
No, I think it's yeah.
I'll just say
7th rounder seems to be where what the going rate should be for Stetcher right now.
Maybe they traded Lucic.
Yeah, no. Good luck with that.
It would be perfect for the Flyers, though, if that happened, though.
Oh, yeah.
They couldn't get JVR traded, but Lucic would.
Right.
they're going to trade Lucic to the Bruins.
Right.
Yeah, right now.
I think that Klingberg could go here in the last couple seconds.
Yeah.
Well, they got to find somebody or two teams that are eating.
Yeah, I don't think so.
$7 million
If he doesn't move, this is a complete failure by Pat Verbeek because the whole reason you signed him was to trade him.
Mm-hmm.
I'm going to give you some odds. Calgary Flames odds of winning the Stanley Cup plus 2,700. The change in the last 7 days minus 0.37%.
Well, yeah.
Vegas doesn't believe in them. I don't believe in them.
I love people who are ripping Dubas, saying Dubas just came up small today. He didn't trade anybody. He didn't make any trades.
They acquired the most players in the league.
I know they returned over 1/3 of their team.
Actually, he's got a contract space. Give him that.
By the way, we've got the return on Oscar Sundqvist was a 4th round pick to Detroit.
Wow,
That's
what year? That's the year is that what matters to me.
Haven't this year.
This year, see, Yzerman, he's got 11 picks now in this draft, 2 firsts, 3 seconds, and his team is pretty good already. They're one of the best set teams going into this draft now.
A partridge in a pear tree. There you go.
No, but listen, you want to talk about all these other teams whose teams are just looking to flail away and make a trade. Like, they have prospects. They're pretty good in the standings, and now they have a lot of draft capital and an important draft capital. Like, it's going to be hard for them to screw up this draft with 2 firsts and 3 seconds. It will be.
I agree. I mean, that's and they could. I mean, they could turn around and move up. That's something they could do very easily.
They could. They won't be able to move up. Like again, so if they have like a 7th and an 11th, they won't be able to move any higher than like 5.
Right.
You won't be able to, in this draft, getting into the top 4 will be nearly impossible.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
That's the way it's going to shape up. So, but again, I don't think they're doing it for that act. Now, again, with 3 seconds, they could move up in the second for sure if there's somebody they really like.
Patrick Brown from Philly to Ottawa.
Who's that? Patrick Brown
from Philly to Ottawa.
Wow, like they need more muscle. Well, you know,
Flyers have traded away all the players that I kept saying were AHL players all year. They've traded these guys like
future considerations. It has to be
to trade him back to Philly afterwards.
Did Claude Giroux text somebody and say we could use Patrick Brown?
No.
No.
Belleville
did not.
Belleville wants him.
Here's what I'll say about that.
I like what Detroit. I like what Minnie's done today. Like, I mean, I don't love giving up Greenway, but they got a 2nd round pick back in the draft and gave up a 4th, so they get an upgrade and save some cap room. I happen to like Curtis Lazard to the Devils a lot. I think it's a really nice acquisition.
Oh, that's going to help in the regular series.
It's 3 p.m., folks.
What?
It's 3 p.m., folks.
I just said that. I said, Eck, ring the bell.
Bang your head.
Mental health will drive you mad.
There you go.
Need a loud mallet. Here you go. There you go.
So for today, Patrick Brown and Zach McEwen, those are the deals for the Flyers.
As of right now,
2 players that I've been saying that just should not be in the NHL.
As of right now.
Yeah, and Brown's been an okay fill-in, like he has. He's a checking guy.
According to LeBron, Carolina is done for the day. Yep. Not that they did anything for the day, but they're not doing anything.
Yeah, there's a report here that it's San Jose. Both goaltenders, Capo Kakinen and Reimer, left the ice before practice, which might mean absolutely nothing, but it might mean something.
Here's what I'll say about when they just say Carolina's done for the day. Eck, did you have one Carolina rumor?
Asplund has gone from Buffalo to Nashville.
Rasmus Asplund.
Yeah. They kind of gave up on him.
He was sort of C blocked in Buffalo. He was like always the 13th forward.
You know what it is? He's never defined what he is.
No.
So like Asplund was C blocked. You're saying, Mike? Is that what you're saying?
We're just not going to go any further than that. Honestly. But
trying to run a family-friendly show.
You said it.
But no, Asplund. You know what? In his draft year, he was like a toolsy guy. Yes. And as the years have gone on, the tools have not shown.
Right. 6th round pick for Patrick Brown from the Senators. And
James Henry has not been traded.
Not traded at all, which is just absolutely horrific asset management.
I was texted that JVR was not traded.
Hold on, let Jan finish that, and then
go ahead.
No, I just said it's absolutely horrific asset management by Philly.
For all the talk that Nashville was not happy with Dante Fabro, they just extended Dante Fabro.
They did,
but
so they were trying to get him on a better deal.
But why?
But why? Yeah.
Do you think they're rushing to get the Rasmus Asplund trade done, Mike? You think that was like a moment of like stress? We're not going to get to trade Rasmus Asplund today.
Got me.
Well, JVR turned out to be prophetic when he said, I could still be here Saturday. He was right.
So here's the thing. If Carolina gets bounced in the first round, how much heat does the GM take for not making a deal to use Pacioretty's cap space?
It depends on whether he received his marching orders from Tom Dundon.
Yeah, he's safe. He does exactly what Tom Dundon wants him to do. He's safe.
It's Geppetto and Pinocchio.
I won't say that, but he's safe.
He does a good job.
Oh no, I'm not saying he doesn't do a good job, but he is limited by an owner who is definitely.
They have a good staff there. They do.
Guy.
They have a good staff. They build a good team, but there is going to have to be a year where they hit a home run at the deadline to actually make it to the Stanley Cup, and they haven't done that yet.
Right. That's true. I agree with that.
But let's talk for a minute about the JVR thing. So we all felt like he should have been traded at the draft last year.
Alex,
They should have traded him and gotten Johnny Gaudreau. I mean,
Well, I mean,
Alex,
forgetting that, they should have traded him at the draft, but for whatever reason, they decided to roll into him this season, and we were like, man, he's never going to work for Torts. He kind of did work for Torts early in the season, and then his season just went awry as far as scoring.
Whoa.
So, like, his value went up, and then it went
What's up,
down
Tim?
to the seller.
Nothing. Forget it.
Yeah.
Well, another idiot, stupid, fake one. Never
Alex
mind.
Chason signs a 1-year deal with Detroit. So
Yeah.
he's
Austin Wagner's been traded to the Blackhawks from the Kings for future consideration.
Who?
Austin Wagner.
Oh, okay.
Okay.
I'm still saying who.
So, in the end, Eck, Isaac Ratcliffe for future considerations, Zach McEwen with this whole Brendan Lemieux thing, and a fifth. So the Flyers got a fifth and a sixth,
Yeah.
probably both in 2024. This is a horrific trading deadline for them. And I did tweet yesterday it was probably going to be the worst one in a decade, and I think my tweet was correct.
Fabro's deal is 1 year, 2.5 mil.
Yeah.
So that's
Well,
the
but
hedge
now,
of we're not going to sign him long term. We'll
Right.
sign him to see what he's got for 1 more year and then make a decision.
Chuck
Right.
Fletcher has a Flyers season ticket town hall tomorrow that might be fun to attend. Here you go.
That's going to be a tough one.
Yeah, it is going to be a tough one.
You're going to have to actually have the metal detector and people frisk as they walk through the door.
So JVR is safe. That's what I'm tweeting. He doesn't have to worry. He doesn't have to pack up.
Wow.
He could walk into the light at the end of this season and know that he'll never get $7 million a season again.
And
I
the
just,
great iron thing.
I just had to check on this. They just had on TSN, you know how they have their trade panel with
Yeah.
Bob and Pierre LeBrun and Drager, and it's 3:06, and they had nothing. They had nothing to report.
So let's talk draft for a minute because I'm being asked how good do I think the draft is? Okay, so I'll just say it like this. Obviously, Connor Bedard is a generational player. Like everybody has seen enough of him, which is fine. Then I have Carlson and Fantilli. I'm going to be flip-flopping them for a while because I really have to take a deep dive on both and decide which one's better. I had Fantilli at second. I had Carlson at second for a while. Now Carlson's there. Fantilli's third. Both of those guys on their own in certain drafts would be number 1, number 2 overall picks as well. So the strength of the top 3 in this is really strong. And then you've got Mitchkov, who also could be a number 1 pick in any other draft. And if he wasn't Russian, would be in that 3rd or 4th spot in this draft.
Really, wow.
So, I mean, he is that good. It's just now with the Russian factor, like Craig Button on the fake draft on TSN had him going 6th. And I think that's realistic. And it's possible he could fall another spot or 2, but it's only because of his contract, which is like through 3 more years. And also because, the Russian factor. So getting down further, right? So let's say I go number 5, Zach Benson. This guy could be a top liner. He's probably a second liner, but also he is the smartest player in the draft. You got a guy, Will Smith from the NTDP, a first or second line center, probably a second line center. And then it gets more arguable. Like the other day when Chuck Fletcher said there's Connor Bedard and then the next 7, it's kind of like grouped. It's not. It's really the first 4, and then that's the next drop off. And then I think it's really like the next 4, and then I think there's another drop off. And so there are a lot of defensemen in this draft, but I don't think there's one top pairing defenseman in this draft. Sandin Pellikka has a chance to be Axel, and I saw him at 5 Nations, and he's really good, but I don't know if he's going to be a top pairing guy. So if a team is looking to get a top pairing defenseman, this may not be the draft. So even for fans, if they're thinking, oh, we're going to get that, like last year, this was a reason why, even though I love Cutter Gauthier, I thought the Flyers should have drafted Jiricek because Jiricek is already having a massive year in the AHL. He'll be up next year with Columbus, and he is a game-changing defenseman. So, again, it does, draft strategy matters, and that's why the teams that are – if you're loaded up in this draft, if you hit on 4 in this draft, you're going to be doing great. Because, most of the time you're talking about hitting 2 or 3. Go ahead.
No, I was just saying, Joel Edmondson was not traded by Montreal. Yep. Montreal did not do anything other than the 5th round pick in the Bonino deal. So There were a lot of unrestricted free agents, and Edmondson had a year left on his contract. I'm a little surprised because there was a lot of chatter about Tampa. I know that you mentioned it, Ak.
Yeah.
The
And Pittsburgh.
Yeah.
With Edmondson too, and
Besser and
some
Miller
people,
stay at the deadline. They don't go anywhere. They stay in Vancouver. So all of that talk basically went nowhere.
yeah, well, and also, so I was going to say, something else. Sorry, I forgot.
Well, here, if we're looking for a little juice, I pulled this up out of the archives. Jan may recognize this. Mike, I don't know,
Yep.
you might.
Juice machine? No, I don't remember that.
Twizzlers cars for Hot Wheels. This was like a big deal in the 70s because there used to always, and Eck probably remembers, there used to be the track cars, and that was a big thing. You used to go down to a place and they would have track car racing, and eventually you got them in your house.
Yeah.
Twizzlers ran on their own battery that ran off this juice machine, and so they would run on their own for hours independently on battery. So like that was
very nice, very nice.
Yeah, that was like a holiday gift that was like one of the best probably in anybody's childhood of the 70s.
Some whispers and late chatter from that Minnesota maybe looking into Klingberg or Scott and Klingberg. Don't know how accurate that is.
Right.
Well, the thing is, the window, like the store is closed, so they had to have looked a half hour ago.
Right.
Yeah.
Well,
but
we all know how Lamoriello came in an hour late. So
I do have to say this. This was in terms of deadline day, this is the worst one in recorded memory.
Yeah, but this has been the best trade deadline.
According to LeBron, Klingberg has been moved to Minnesota.
Oh,
wow.
Hey, there you go, folks.
So just imagine, again, and I'm getting a lot of feedback on Philadelphia, but just look at what Minnesota was able to do. Look at even Anaheim being able to move Klingberg with that contract.
Right.
Similar to JVR, right? Both the same money, $7 million.
Yeah.
Yeah, $7 million.
Yep.
No, Anaheim will probably have to have retained 3.5.
Yeah. But I'm just saying, it shows a difference in effectiveness here that's going to make a difference down the line for, like for Anaheim. If Anaheim gets Bedard, that's going to change for them.
Rasmus
Anaheim gets Bedard. You put Bedard with McTavish and Zagris.
Yeah. Rasmus Asplund was traded for a 2025 seventh, which is basically nothing.
Yeah. So
hey, don't give me 7th round picks. Some of them do pan out.
That's true.
Yeah.
Ergo, the future Hall of Famer next year from the Rangers was a 7th round pick.
Yeah, but that wasn't. He was only a 7th.
I said it pans out occasionally. I didn't say it's a commonplace.
But Krista Rockstrom wanted him in the 1st round, and nobody.
I know.
But I will say this: Kim Janssen was a very good last of the pick draft.
So he was, yes. He definitely was. He was the better pick than Pavel Brendel that went in the same trade. Kim Janssen went in the same trade as Pavel Brendel to get Lindros.
Yeah.
So and Janssen was a much better player.
Eric Lindros, the last Ranger to wear 88 before Patrick Kane.
Correct.
There you go. That's right.
How does that sound, Ek?
That's kind of crazy, isn't it?
Actually, Lindros didn't play badly in New York either.
No, Lindros, listen, I'm going to tell you, I covered him exclusively that first season. He had 73 points. He had a great year. He was really a team leader. He was terrific. But then he got hit the next year, and all of a sudden the concussions came back. And when he came back from that, I noticed, because I still was covering just them, the eye-hand coordination for Lindros wasn't there. So, like, when the puck was on his stick, it took him an extra half second to get it off his stick, and he couldn't score anymore. And that's when he started toiling. So he went to Dallas, and then eventually filled out his destiny in Toronto like most old players.
Oh, okay, here you go. This is interesting. Elliot Friedman just reported this. The full Calgary, Arizona
I just saw that. Good.
Troy Stetcher and Nick Ritchie for, is it Connor Mackey?
Yep. And Brett
Ritchie.
Yep.
So brother for brother.
Oh, wow.
That's hilarious.
There you go.
Actually, I like Ritchie. Actually, he's not a bad 4th line ad by Calgary.
Which one? Oh, by Nick.
The better one.
Yeah. Well, let's just say this. Calgary's team speed did not increase.
No, but he's a good 4th line guy to add. He's an agitated a little bit.
Right.
Yeah. No, I mean, this was the best trade deadline ever, though, in terms of everything else. Like, I mean, it really was. I mean, like, in terms of,
if you take the trade deadline being 2 weeks.
No, even just a week. I mean, even just this last week was insanity. Like, I mean, I have never slept less. You know, like I'm just like absolutely freaking exhausted. Like I'm toast.
Yeah, me too.
You know, I am.
Yeah, Mike's working very hard.
No, I'm just toast, man.
I have to do another show after this. Don't worry about me.
Mm.
Everybody else can go to sleep. I can't. I have to
Wow.
report on the Flyers. Think about my report.
That should be a very short report.
Oh, it's a half-hour show. I'm gonna have to fill.
Oh, don't pick on Russ's height.
My height's not bad. I mean, I'm 5'8.5", pretty much 5'9". So
It's like
Not
Fletch is 6'5", 6'9" with the afro. Kind of works the same way.
yeah,
The afro.
Wow.
Oh my
my
goodness.
family 5'8.5", 5'9" is tall. Just so you know.
There you go.
I'm
So-
curious to see what Minnesota gave up for Klingberg.
I will bet. Let's see. I'll guess a 2 and a 5.
Yeah.
Yeah, but not this year. And I'm gonna say they're 2025s.
2024.
Nope, 25s.
Okay.
I guess.
Now we got to stick around to see.
Let's see. Hold on. Let me see what they had pick wise.
Yeah, here's Shoemaker. He, again, he's getting at what we're getting at. Calgary could have moved Lindholm and Toffoli with 1 year left for big assets, but instead they add a couple fourth liners, and that is going to be the problem with the end of the Calgary regime. Because I don't know. Will Darryl Sutter come back after this year? I don't think so. Heck, you hear anything about that?
If they don't make the playoffs, you're probably right.
Yeah.
Now, Russ, I'm telling you right now,
Randy's in hiding too.
I'll tell you right now. I'll tell you right now. If we fast forward to the draft in Nashville, I can almost predict we're on the draft floor and we're at the end of the first round, and Toronto has Boston's first round pick. They will trade down and they will get 2 picks for that pick.
Yeah, but again, I'm going to tell you that doing that doesn't always help. I mean, I can go back to Philly.
Yeah.
They have Bobby Brink and Cam York.
Well, if there's somebody that they love, then they'll
Doesn't matter, but just hold on.
Okay.
Bobby Brink and Cam York, and you could have had Cole Caulfield. So now we get a chance to look at it all these years later. Ek, can you even justify that deal? No.
No, but Russ,
It's the same premise.
Whatever. Yeah, no, it's the same premise, but no, it's different because we're talking.
Yeah,
about,
you remember. I was fuming.
fucking.
Yeah.
We're talking about the end of the first round, and the Leafs did that with St. Louis the year that they drafted Rasmus Sandin, and they traded down and they got a better play. I think it was Dominic Bach or something like that for St. Louis.
Yeah, right.
And it was Rasmus Sandin, and the Leafs ended up getting a better player.
That's right.
They traded him.
Well,
I think we got to call it, guys, because I got to keep going.
Wait, I made that up. Did I make that up?
I didn't say, yes, but that doesn't mean he wasn't a
I have
better
a whole
player.
career away from Toronto now.
Yeah, doesn't mean he wasn't a better player.
Anyway, let's revisit Vitaly Kravtsov, who looked good yesterday, was on the power play, got an assist in the game.
Yeah.
Rangers got a horrific return for him. Jan, your thoughts?
I knew he wouldn't go the whole show without having to bring this up. And my view, Russ, my view on this has been clear for how long?
But you need to say it for the ones that don't know.
Fine. My view on this is that they basically let me take a step back. Both sides are culpable in this case. Kravtsov should have gone to the AHL. His management, his ownership, and his agent should have said it's good for you to go down to learn the North American game, stay for about a month, and then potentially come back because of all the injuries. Because of all the injuries last year, he could have. He decided to go back. Both sides are culpable. They basically gave up an asset for, in essence, nothing to clear cap space, which, again, as I've said, if they had managed the cap space better earlier in the year, you may not have been in this predicament.
You wouldn't have been in this position,
Yeah. Can I just say to all the Leaf fans out there, I told you they weren't trading Alex Kerfoot.
That's the hill, Mike. That's the hill you're dying on today.
Mike is right. Mike was right.
I'm always right.
Yes.
When it comes to the Leafs, I am always right.
I have to go, kids. I'm sorry. I do have to get going.
I'll end the show.
I appreciate it, guys. I will.
Well, again, we still don't know the Klingberg return.
We don't know the Klingberg thing. You guys can hang in for a bit. I just have to, unfortunately.
Yeah.
So, but we will.
Fine.
Thanks everybody for watching, and
Right.
thanks everybody for joining, and thanks everybody for being a part of the show today. And
We'll
we will talk about this more on Monday.
We'll stick on for a few more minutes just to find
Thanks,
out
guys.
about the Klingberg.
Thanks, guys. Yep. All right, guys. Talk to you soon.
Okay. Thanks. Anthony, so no JVR deal.
Nope. No, it sounds to me what I'm sussing out here. It sounds like this was definitely sound like this might have been a three-party situation. But not 100% on that. Detroit, regardless of the situation, the key part to the deal, which was Detroit, as we saw what Elliot Freeman stated, was they decided to back away. And this is what it is for Philadelphia here at the deadline and for Chuck Fletcher. I mean, your return at the deadline is Brendan Lemieux, a 4th round pick in 2024 and a 6th round pick in 2023. And you're coming away now with James Van Riemsdyk, and you were not able to move him off. He heads off into free agency, which again, that's not a surprise, but
it ain't great.
No, it is what it is. I mean, this was never. Listen, Russ, did we ever really think at any point here that this was going to be this deadline was going to be a good result
I will
for the
say,
Flyers?
Kevin Allen said 2 weeks ago it's possible Van Riemsdyk doesn't get traded at all because of tightness, but we've seen a million trades.
And the problem is that they're trying to. My read here is that they're trying to thread a tight needle in a short period of time. And go ahead. We're going to say, Mike?
I was just going to say because we're doing the guessing game on the Klingberg deal before the details come out. Minnesota has 2 second-round picks this year, their own and Vegas's, and they have 2 fifth-round picks in 2024. So I'll bet you it's a 2 and a 5.
That's what it is. Now you said it, yeah.
And the 2 they just got in the Greenway trade.
Right. Right. Maybe that's right.
Vegas 2 they just got in the Greenway trade.
Right.
So here's what I'll say. And yeah, I get that. And again, even if he is everybody's 3rd or 4th choice, the fact that they needed a 3rd team made this bad. But in the end, you still need to walk away with an asset for that guy. And
if it's late in the deal, unless you have another thing in the pipe here, which it sounds, and that therein lies their concern. But again, it comes down to who's willing to make the move with them.
Even, I know. But the thing is, there are definite teams that would like JVR. We know that the salary's too high, and it is Chuck's job to get another team involved or get that salary down to whatever is going to make a deal get done. What I think it shows is a lot of times GMs have this other GM that they know they can make a deal with. I don't know if Chuck has that anymore.
No, I mean at this point, that's a legitimate question to ask. Is if you have that fail-safe situation to get something out of nothing in the circumstance. But I always felt that as we got closer and closer to today, I was honestly genuinely surprised to hear that the initial report from Elliot Freeman that
we all were
that the deal was pulled. And when I saw it was Detroit, I'm like, I said Detroit is interesting because it seems like Detroit's moving guys off.
Yeah.
After doing the Larkin deal, I said unless they're being used, unless they are moving him to someone else for assets that they're looking for, this kind of runs strangely. And then things didn't happen. And it could very well, again, if they were waiting on Detroit in this circumstance with the other 3rd party. And again, this is pure speculation, everyone. That's the dangers of having multiple parts or things involved this late in the game when the clock is ticking.
So it does make you go down the road of before they hired John Tortorella and had JVR under contract, they could have gotten a draft pick.
We have the return.
Okay.
John Klingberg return. Minnesota is sending a 2025 4th rounder, Andre Suster, and the rights to Nesterenko. Ducks retaining half of Klingberg's salary.
That's nothing.
Yeah, that's a
that's nothing.
That's I got to get something for an expiring asset, so I'm going to take whatever I can get.
This is worse than the Thomas Vanek deal by the Canadians to the Islanders, and what was it, Sebastian Coburg in a 2nd-round pick when everybody was saying they were going to get multiple first. That is absolute. Pat Verbeek showing his rookie general managership on this one, where he overplayed his hand and he gets Andre Schuster is nothing. That is absolutely horrible. Wow.
Well, they did get the rights to Nesterenko, Mike. That is something.
Yeah, that's what I was going to say. I can't say that's nothing. I cannot. But it is. If you want to say it's underwhelming, sure. I don't think it's it's an absolute flame wreck disaster. It's probably a C
Give me the lowdown on Nestorenko, Russ.
Yeah, I'm looking up my notes. You got to give me a minute.
Okay. So yeah, let's just see here. Wow, that's stunning.
I wanted to finish my thought with Anthony. Hold on. So my thought with Anthony is they could have gotten a draft pick for JVR at the draft. They should have.
This year, the past draft.
This past draft. Last draft. He didn't need to come to the team this year. They could have traded him at the draft and worked out a deal and gotten something, even if it's a three-way deal then. Like, they should have been working on it.
It's one of those things where we can say that for sure. And again, we all were wondering how JVR's, how this would play out with JVR. And the reason why I brought up the tweet that I did earlier, that Russ, I think URT that I put out earlier, is it's a weird, JVR's in this sort of strange middle realm. And I had a conversation also with Micah McCurdy. We were talking back and forth a little bit about how GMs view JVR in terms of, while his defensive play has certainly been better this year, it all depends on how teams envision him fitting into a bottom six role. And the offensive production that he had when he was with Toronto and maybe a little bit early on with the first part of his tenure, second tenure with Philadelphia, he had more offensive production. Well, those numbers aren't there. While his defense is better, you're talking about a high dollar figure that you have to figure out. And who is he for your team versus what he is for Philadelphia? And that's the weird, I think, conundrum that I think that put the Flyers and other GMs in sort of no man's land and trying to come up with what they were going to say is what would work.
I think the issue here, Anthony, was the fact that for the $7 million, for the fact that they would have had to trade him through a third team.
That's the only way it was going to happen, Mike. And I think that's exactly what was. And I'm convinced of it until we hear from Chuck in this case, and we may not.
It really wasn't worth it for that other team to get him because he has 9 goals. He's slower. He's not. He's not a
He's better defensively than he used to be, but the offensive output. Now, again, as I said, it has to be from that other GM saying, can he give me more offensively with my more talented lineup than he could with Philadelphia? And also,
So I was going to say, here's the scouting on Nestorenko. So a year ago, I had him as the 9th ranked prospect for Minnesota. He's still at BC. He's having a good year. He's almost a point a game. He's an oddity because he's out of Brooklyn. Anaheim doesn't generally sign a lot of college free agents, but they might as well take a swing at him because he is a center. He's got good hands. He was a rookie of the year in BC in his first year. I have good report on him. So he's good in the slot. Like, this is a guy who could actually play for them if they sign him. And I'm not telling you he's a top 6 guy. He's not. But we can't say it's nothing because, again, this is a guy, he's 3rd year at BC. They'll probably take a chance and try and sign him in the offseason because Minnesota probably got word he doesn't want to play there. And you know what? Hey, he could be something. So sometimes that's not nothing. So I want to point that out. That's it.
So I wonder for Minnesota, though, who ends up sitting now on their blue line?
Yeah, that's a good question.
Is it Merrill? Is it Addison? Is it Goligoski?
It's not Addison because Garen likes Addison.
Is it Dumba?
No, it's not Dumba. Dumba's a team leader.
Somebody's got to sit.
I know, but it's not any of them, and they like Goligoski. I think it's Merrill. I do.
Yes.
Merrill's the extra guy. He's he's not what he was ever intended to be as far as a tremendous U.S. defenseman, but he's been pretty good, and he's physical, but he is like an extra defenseman. He is.
When Minnesota played Toronto last week, they played Dakota Mermis, and he's not playing anymore.
No.
So, but no, Minnesota definitely upgraded themselves with the moves that they've made. Like I said, I think the Greenway move was good for Buffalo. I think he fits with what Buffalo needs, and Buffalo didn't subtract really other than trading Asplund out, who was pretty much an extra forward.
Yeah.
But Greenway, no.
Here's a point that Brandon Judy makes, and this is, when you don't follow a team every day. He said Addison's been scratched lately, and, he is an offensive defenseman, and so is Klingberg. So maybe that is the change. But I know Guerin likes him. I wouldn't be shocked if he gives Addison another chance because he went out and got him. And
he has been scratched a couple times lately.
Yeah,
defensive reasons.
let's go quickly around the horn here.
Oh, real quick, Mike, just to confirm also that Flyer spokesman did confirm, according to Olivia Reiner, that all the team's trades have been announced. So that is it. The Flyers are done. No additional deals.
Now that my next show, Locked On Flyers, which is a half-hour show, I've got 10 minutes of content. Great.
Okay, the Flyers.
Chuck is talking though in about 10 minutes.
I hope
we'll end before then. But the Flyers move out Brown, move out McEwen for Lemieux, don't trade JVR. That's basically it. So, which are sort of like non-Tortorella moves because you've traded like a couple guys who are rough and tumble guys, and you get one back. So.
I think there's others in the pipe though too that you have. I mean, Brown's one that I was almost a little bit. I'm not surprised. I shouldn't say that. Brown's the definition of one of those last second deals that you put in. But I think Torts did like. He's one of those guys that I think he did like. But he'll give you a little bit of play, and then things will flatline again. So it's yeah. Those are definitely two guys. But again, you also have McEwen coming off of a jaw injury in this circumstance. Again, I think they took what they could in this circumstance to try to gain some level of additional draft picks in this in these circumstances. Plus, you gotta carve out some opportunities and roles for players like an Elliot Desnoyers and some of the other. Even though I think they want them to mostly be playing with the Phantoms.
Yeah, they only have 4 more call-ups, so they can only.
There's only so many more that they can do, and I think
unless it's an emergency call-up,
right.
Yeah.
Yeah, they could do potentially emergency call-ups in this case, but yeah, I think what they have is what they have.
Jan and Russ, the Rangers, don't do anything today. They got all their moves done previous to that. Do you think that? Well, Jan, you first. Do you think what they've done has improved their chances, or I mean, Russ seems to be anti the Patrick Kane move. I get that, but what do you think? With where they stand,
I'm honestly betwixt and between. So I think you guys know, I would have been fine if they had added around the edges, right? I mean, Jimmy Vesey wasn't a perfect second line player. Barclay Goodrow wasn't a perfect second line player, but you could have moved either one of them up and filled it on the bottom line. I mean, Toronto getting Lafferty, Sam Lafferty was one of the guys that I wanted for a fourth line guy. Thought he would have been a nice fit with Mott and with Vesey or whoever plays on that fourth line. You could have added another blue liner. Mikkola wasn't the guy I wanted. Kulikov was one guy I wanted. McCabe was a guy I thought I had some interest in. Look, their top 9 is going to be score. I mean, the kid line is actually flatlined slightly over the last week or two, hoping that's just a little blip. My concern is the blue line has struggled overall, especially lately, but it's kind of hard to get a read on them because they've been missing Lindgren and Miller. I think they're a better team, but the problem is look, you could literally throw 18, at least 6 teams in a hat right now in the East and pull one out, and you can make a salient argument that any one of those 6 teams are going to represent the East in the Stanley Cup Finals. I mean, the East is just absolutely loaded. Boston's loaded, New Jersey's loaded, Toronto's loaded, Tampa Bay's loaded. The only team that hasn't is Carolina, right? They've added around the edges, and they may be the other one to 6. I mean, Boston is by far, in my opinion, the clear favorite to come out of these, barring any injuries. The problem with New York now, they have no cap space. If God forbid somebody gets hurt, they're SOL. They have no other moves that they can make right now, and they've put themselves into a cap hell that they have no way of getting out of right now. And to me, that's a major impact because we know the playoffs is a battle of attrition, and you need the depth to get yourself through it.
Russ?
Sorry, I was texting somebody. What are we? Oh, Rangers. So, look, I'm not condemning them for the Patrick Kane move. I'm just saying you have to take this emphasis that you've put on Patrick Kane and show, like last night, one of the best players on the ice was Tarasenko. And at one point, he was 3.5 minutes behind Patrick Kane in time on the ice. And Patrick Kane is laboring at times on the ice. This kind of stuff has to level out, and they've got to put the right power play guys in the right spot. You can't just let Patrick Kane own the wall that Zibanejad clearly is better at. So we'll see. We'll see how all that works out. They aren't tough enough now, though. And I hate to be the guy that says that because Ottawa just showed that last night, and that's going to be the way that teams attack the Rangers. Now, again, the Devils don't have a lot of that, so that series could go 7, and I think it might come down to goaltending, but Lazar will be a guy that throws it around a little. So, maybe that helps them.
And Carolina's not overly tough either, but when they get to play the East, or they get to play the Atlantic and it's Boston or Tampa.
it's to get to the conference final that they did last year.
Right.
Much harder road this year.
Yeah, I mean, let's just say this: the Rangers are really hoping that Toronto is the one that comes out of the Atlantic because Toronto has toughened themselves up, but they're not as tough as Boston, and Tampa. As for the Leafs, I mean, they made the minor move that this Zahorna for Dryden Hunt deal, which was pretty much minor leaguer for minor leaguer. But looking at it objectively, I think they really improved themselves. I think that the McCabe deal gives them a top 4 defenseman who can play either left or right, more physical veteran guy. The concern with him is injuries. They added Lafferty, who's a fourth liner who with energy and speed, but he's not revelatory. He's just a decent depth forward. Chari and O'Reilly were the impact moves. And I think both of them will help them. I don't like them giving away Sandin, but they did get a first-round pick, which they needed to get back after trading their 2023 first for O'Reilly. The thing here is, and Russ made this point a couple days ago, and I agree, they're selling out. They're going all in just to win a round and just to really save Kyle Dubas's job. And I think Kyle Dubas is a good general manager, but
he's not a bad general manager.
The expectations are so low right now in terms of, they're all saying the right things. They need to win a Stanley. We're doing all these things to win a Stanley Cup. Okay. Does anybody really think they're getting by Boston? Does anybody really think they're going to beat Tampa? I sure as hell don't. If they do, I'll be the first one to give them a ton of credit. But right now, I still would bet on Tampa against Toronto in a first-round matchup. They're just a better
I'll
team.
fall back to you. I mean, what it probably comes down to, all these additions are fine.
Yeah.
It does make them better. But it probably still comes down to the core proving it in the playoffs and actually all producing at once. And if they don't, they probably don't do anything anyhow.
Yeah,
I think it comes down to Ilya Samsonov between the pipes and whether or not Ilya Samsonov can be better than Michael's favorite of Freddie Anderson between the pipes.
Listen, Matt Murray's going to play tomorrow, Jan.
Yes.
Right.
Jan, he is. They just Chris Johnson just tweeted out with the Leafs not making any more moves, that Matt Murray is coming off LTIR and they have enough room to sign Matthew Nyes. So that's what's going to happen. They're going to probably activate Matt Murray today or tomorrow, and he'll play one of the next couple games, and then it's going to be a split between him and Samsonov. And I honestly think
he is not getting to 31 games, Mike. I'm telling you.
Okay, Russ, but I'm telling you, in the playoffs, they're both going to be used. If Matt Murray is healthy, they're both going to be used.
I would say you have to admit this. The fact that he's only played 19 games to this point, you thought he would play a lot more than that when they signed him.
I thought at max he was going to play 40.
Yeah.
I thought he was going to split.
There's no chance he's playing 40.
Yeah,
he might have if he hadn't gotten hurt.
Well,
right.
This is the story of Matt Murray. Like, this is
right. But Russ, as long as he's healthy, when April 16th or 17th rolls around, that's all that's going to matter to them, because they want that playoff pedigree that won 2 Stanley Cups with the Penguins.
Yeah, but he actually has to be healthy.
As long as he's not trying to play hockey on one leg, he'll be fine.
I think the issue also out west is Seattle did nothing, which surprises me. I really thought they would do something.
Yes and no. I think honestly, they may, and this is speculation on my part, I think they may have been the team that was in on the other team that was in on JVR, and they were just like, we can't get this thing with JVR done. That's fine. We're okay with what we have.
Is it possible that Philadelphia pulled back when they found out that he was going to go to Pittsburgh?
No.
What, JVR?
Yeah, there's fallout. No, they wouldn't care.
Oh, the third team? No, it's the appearance. No, according to, if you look at Elliott's tweet, it's Detroit who held out.
Right.
Okay.
It's Detroit, which tells me in this circumstance, I think they were the funnel point, and he was Seattle. Again, as I said, everybody, this is speculation.
All right, the Rangers Posey just made a small trade that makes absolutely no sense to me.
Okay.
They traded Gustav Rydell to Colorado for Anton Blid.
Yeah, Anton Blid's an interesting one.
That's where is the Rangers minor league team currently in the standings right now?
They're horrible.
I'm to like Rydell. I really thought he should have been
Hartford,
up.
I believe, is in last place.
Hartford, so they're not. This is not a play. This is not.
Yeah,
they're not going anywhere. Hartford right now.
Okay, that's why I didn't know what the context was. In that case. Sorry.
The player that they're getting has played with the Bruins in the
he's an actual fill-in player that I had to remember. I had him on fantasy team the last couple of years, and actually when he plays in short spurts, he can be decent. So he's a fill-in.
Okay.
All right. Great job, guys.
Yep.
Great job to, for everybody that popped in. Kevin Allen popped in, and
Yep.
Eklund popped in.
And don't forget this weekend, everybody, Sunday off the post, we are having our trade deadline analysis breakdown show, post-mortem, we want to call it, with Kevin. Actually will be joining us to break everything down from what happened today. And listen, it's been a week. It's been a week. It's been a couple weeks, people. I mean, I don't know at this point right now. We all were complaining about the fact that the NHL doesn't do what the NBA does. And well, we got a lot of quantity. Let's put it that way at the very minimum.
And I made it through the show without finishing the 2 liter of Coke.
Oh, all I'm going to say is Godspeed to your bladder tonight, Mark.
Clearly, there wasn't enough action for Mike then.
There you go.
There's the action.
Yep. He did do one bathroom break already, Anthony. You missed it. He did do the one break already.
I picked the right time.
Run, Forrest, run!
I picked the right time when Russ the Chicken was on. Okay, so for Anthony Mangione.
I actually haven't done one. That reminds me. I probably should before the next show.
For Anthony Mangione, for Jan Levine, for Russ Cohen, for the departed Eklund and the departed Kevin Allen, I'm Michael Lagello. Thank you for watching. And remember, without the buzz, it's just hockey.